Welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a hump day edition of the Rodcast. Great to have you guys joining us today. Got a lot to get into on the show. Plenty of Longhorn football discussion. We didn't get to all the Steve Sarkisian sound from yesterday, so we'll get to some of that. We'll also talk about the Texans and the Cowboys' upcoming opponents. We'll get into them. I love both of their opponents, actually. I think it'll tell us a lot about both of those teams coming up. We'll talk about that coming up in the next hour of the show. We'll go behind the burnt orange curtain next segment and talk about some of the young outliers for Texas, some of the young standout performers for Texas so far this season. We'll also get into this. There's a very interesting stat. We brought this up last week about ASS, average separation score. You hear people talk about it once again. AD Mitchell showing his ASS because he's actually one of the highest ranked players once again in the average separation score. We'll talk about that for week 2 of the NFL. A lot of NFL news, notes, and nuggets to hit. We'll talk Jerry Jones' thoughts about their running back position. We were just talking about that yesterday in our topic for the Big Fat Poll today. Jerry Jones was asked about it. So it's serendipitous. We'll get into Jerry Jones's comments about where they are at running back. You probably won't be surprised about his response. We'll hear from Michael Parsons about their disappointing and embarrassing defensive performance versus the Saints. And we'll also have your usual favorites on the show, of course. We'll have your topic for the Big Fat Poll of the day. Off the record, we'll have who said that. We'll also get into a little bit of what the facts, what the stats, and we got Raj Rant coming up a little bit later on the show. So we're jam-packed on the show. We'll start to look at Louisiana Monroe a little bit, but you probably don't care as much about them as you care about your Longhorns, who are ranked the number 1 team in the country. So we'll start diving into what we've seen so far from the Longhorns through their first 3 games. But before we do any of that, let's introduce you to the rest of the crew. He's one of the hardest working members of the ARN family. Got a hustler spirit, period. Not sure what he's paid, but I'm pretty sure, damn sure the man is underpaid. Ain't no 401k for this hustler, and he's a hustle man of many talents. It's our friend, co-host, and neighbor. It is Patrick Davis, y'all. What's going on, Patrick? How you doing?
I'm doing good. I am doing good on a Wednesday. I did not stay up for the Astros game last night. However, I did get to see the highlights this morning, and it seemed like it was a pretty fun finish to that game, and we'll get into a little bit in the Horn headlines. But another image of Jose Altuve that'll be put into the minds of people once they see these clips of Jose Altuve arguing a call by taking off his shoe and sock to show the umpire where the ball hit him on his foot.
Wow.
And getting ejected for
emphatic.
it.
Yeah. I'm going to say if you take off your shoe and sock,
yes,
you might have offended the official there.
But for the record, he was right. You can watch the replay. You can watch the replay and see that he was right. But that was another one of those images that will probably stick with him for a while.
Off the shoe and the sock. Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna show them where the bruise is, you got to show them the actual.
Yeah,
foot.
You got to show them like this is where it hit me on my toe.
Yeah, I would have said taking off the shoe actually would probably took it too far. I would say you could have just pointed, but taking off the shoe and the sock. Hey,
yeah,
I'm gonna say he knew he was gonna get thrown out at that point. He was like, you know what?
I get well. And
I got to commit to the bid at that point.
The line from the backup was when I saw him start untying his shoe, I grabbed my glove.
Exactly. It was like when you committed to that point, I was like, "Oh, you're taking off clothing? Okay, you gonna take? Okay. Well, everybody knows that point. Like, okay, he's already committed. He knows he's going home. Well, he knows he's gonna be on the bench from that point. Oh, yeah, you're getting thrown out. I you know what? I get it. Was it was it that egregious? Was it an easy call?
I mean, it wasn't super easy, but that's also why there's replay, and that's why you're
get it wrong on the replay too.
I don't even think they went to replay. I think they just I'm guessing Astros didn't have any of their challenges left, or they couldn't say it on that. But it was a foul tip off of his foot, so he hit it off his foot. They fielded it to third, throw it to first, and Altuve's staying at the plate because he's like, "Well, that went off my foot, so it's a dead play." And they're like, "Nope, you're out.
Foot, man.
It's the third out in the 9th inning. We're going to the bottom of the 9th, tied up." And he's like, "But no, I hit it off my foot." And so he ends up getting thrown out. Joe Espada, the manager, gets thrown out.
Wow. But I get it. So there's a group effort there.
At least from the Astros fans and Astros people that cover the game, apparently those officials were pretty bad all game. I don't know if that's true or not. I didn't get to watch it. It's in San Diego. It is a 9 p.m. start for those games. And I'm not.
Now when you got to get up at 4-5 in the morning.
No,
just
I'm
not
not staying up to watch those. But definitely a fun image of Jose Altuve. Let me introduce you to my co-host. He's a proud alumni of DBU. He's got more papers than Dunder Mifflin. He watches more film than Siskel and Ebert. He is the new Rod Father of Austin Sports Radio, Mr. Rod Babers.
I appreciate the intro as always. We'll get into a lot of things. We'll see my man Patrick's already giving you a little baseball take on there, so we appreciate that.
You know, we're getting to baseball playoffs too.
I know there's gonna be time to dive in, so I'm glad you're sprinkling it in.
Yeah,
it's gonna be time to dive into.
We're getting there. We're in last 2 weeks.
Baseball discussion.
Yeah, the baseball ends next Sunday, so or at least the regular season ends next Sunday, and then we get to postseason baseball. But that is it's coming up. It's getting there.
And the Astros are playing well. They're playing
well.
Best baseball right now.
They're not playing the best. Their best baseball was about 3 weeks ago, a month ago, when they were the hottest team in baseball. I don't think they're the hottest team in baseball anymore, but they're still playing some decent baseball. They got some stuff. They get Kyle Tucker back. They're pitching. They still got some guys pitching pretty well. So they got some good things going for them. They look like they're still going to win that division. So they'll be making the playoffs, and another run for the Astros in the playoffs. See if anybody can topple their run of making it to the ALCS.
Yeah, no, it should be fun for Astros fans. Rangers fans, of course, obviously next year is something they got to look forward to. But hey, man, you're defending champions for now, so enjoy it. You guys still got a few weeks as the defending champions until a new champion is crowned. All right, let's get to the headlines, and we'll get updated, educated, and informed on all the top stories. Then we'll come back and we'll dive into a couple of topics. I want to talk some NFL, and I want to talk some Longhorn football. So we'll do both here to start off. But first, let's get to the Horn headlines. My man Patrick Davis.
All right, your Horn headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. In the MLB, the Astros evened their series with the Padres last night with a 4-3 win in extra innings. Hunter Brown pitched 6 innings, giving up 2 runs, but in the top of the 9th, with 2 outs, Jose Altuve fouled a ball off his toe on a call the umpire missed, and Altuve was ejected after taking his shoe and sock to argue the call. Altuve's replacement, Greg Kissinger, scores the go-ahead run from second and makes the final out in the field with a great play. Tonight, Framber Valdez gets to start facing off against Dylan Cease. And the Rangers found their stride at the plate, winning game 1 of their series with the Blue Jays 13-8. Nathan Eovaldi had a poor start, allowing 7 runs in just 4 2/3 innings. However, the Bats capitalized on opportunities and had 13 runs on 13 hits. Cody Bradford takes the mound tonight for the Rangers. And in the NFL, the Dolphins have placed Tua Tagovailoa on IR after suffering a concussion in Week 2. He will now miss at least 4 games. In a corresponding move, the Dolphins added former Pro Bowl quarterback Tyler Huntley to the roster. And the Chiefs signed Kareem Hunt to their practice squad, looking for help at running back after Isaiah Pacheco suffered a broken fibula last week. Hunt was drafted by the Chiefs in the 3rd round of 2017, but was cut after the 2018 season following an incident at a hotel. And that is your Horn headlines.
All right. Thank you, Patrick, for the Horn headlines there. All right. So a couple of things I want to get into. I do want to talk some Texas football. Something I saw that was bizarre, but it actually came from a credible source. Actually came from John Ewing of Action Network. He does obviously a lot of their gambling stats and analytics. So after the weekend, of course, Arch Manning coming in. He was placed on the Heisman odds. Placed
of course he
among
was.
the Heisman odds. Yeah, and according to John Ewing, this is from BetMGM. Since Saturday, 27% of the bets, the most, have come on Arch Manning to win.
People like throwing money away, don't they?
His odds to win were plus 1,600. And yeah, they put him up on there, and people started throwing money at it. He's not going to win the Heisman this year, guys. He's just missing the first couple of games. Well, not missing, but not playing, not starting the first couple of games is going to keep him from winning the Heisman. And he's got to start the majority of the games. He's not, And I thought that was interesting. I just wanted to throw that. That's the Arch Madness is already kind of crazy. And it, like I said, we know that he's just going to come in, obviously, and start ULM, maybe start another game, and we expect him to be great. He's always been great when he's going in there. But nationally, I'll tell you, see that's another example of the mania and the madness. So like I said, I saw that my wife told me that the Today Show actually on Monday, one of the leads, but Texas was the number one team in the country too. So that's a little, throw that in there. But one of their leads was Texas football is back, and then they combined it with the Manning thing, and during their kind of their tease on sports. So it's you combine those two brands and you get that. As Patrick said, some people throwing away money, but hey, they'll bet on it. It's just a feel good bet to them.
It was when you said all the bets were coming down for Zamir White to be the leading rusher. I was like, well, that's a bad bet. That's throwing money away. Zamir White through the first 2 weeks has 22 carries for 68 yards.
Hey, so I said it's feel good. Some people they kind of bet with their gut. They bet with their emotion.
If I put down 100 bad bets, one of them might hit. Like, you just lose 100 bets. That's all it is.
They want to, I mean, it's like I said, I was shocked to see that. I said it came from a credible source, so I want to make sure that wasn't.
I believe people are doing it, but
yeah. No, I don't bet like that, so I don't even know. I think those are, like I said, they're like feel good bets. They're almost like little. I mean, because I don't know how much, it didn't give you a dollar figure there, but I think when some people who bet a lot, they just do that. They dabble in little stuff like that.
I could believe more if people said they were putting down future, like super future bets for 2025 Heisman that I'm sure there's no odds for. But if you said like next year's Heisman, I think he's going to win it, because then Quinn will be gone and he'll be the starter and then he'll win it then. I don't know if you can.
Paul Feinbaum said. Paul Feinbaum said he will win the Heisman at what point in his career, which I could believe that. I mean, that's actually not a terrible bet. Yeah, that's actually not down the line. If you can get whatever odds you can get for it now, they almost like it's like like gag gifts. It's like a gag bet basically. That's what it feels like right now. It does. I'm talking about down the line, 3-4 years. So yeah, of course, I'd put money on him to win the Heisman. But right now, it just kind of feels like a gag, and some people love gag gifts. And you feel like it's a waste of money, but it's like, no, it's a gag gift. I think it's a gag bet, where it's almost like they mock it to a certain extent. It's a joke bet to them. Unless if you betting that for real and you're putting real money on it, then I do feel bad for you. But I don't feel like they're putting real money. I think it's like it's just it's like what's happening at the time, and it's popular, and like I said, almost a feel good thing. I don't have better, so I wouldn't know. But if you feel
you throw like $5 on it and then take a picture of it and put it on your Instagram. And everybody goes, oh.
I feel like enough people doing that. Like you know what I mean? I feel like it's that kind of thing.
Yeah, I got
the betting community. I could be off, but like I said, I don't know a lot about it. Anyway, that's another example of the Arch Madness out there. Okay, I wanted to get to this, and I sent a couple of clips of audio could you pull the Brock Purdy sound up for us, please, Patrick? I thought this was telling. So one of the more surprising results over the weekend was the fact that the 49ers had a lot of injuries right away. 49ers still got Deebo Samuel's dealing with an injury. They got the Christian McCaffrey injury. So, as a matter of fact, right now, that's one of the unfortunate storylines at the start of the season. They got a lot of teams that are just banged up early. A ton of teams that got critical guys. We just talked about the Rams. We got Puka and Cooper Kupp are going to be out for a while. But anyway, one of the surprising results of the weekend was the 49ers getting beat by Sam Darnold-led Vikings team, 23-17. And one of the highlights, I don't even know if the 49ers wanted this out, but in the post game, when Brock Purdy is, shaking hands, he meets up with Brian Flores, the defensive coordinator from the Minnesota Vikings. And Brian Flores obviously had the controversy with Tua, but Brian Flores is killing it right now as a defensive coordinator. Like I think, like I said, one of the reasons that the Vikings won that game was that defense was able to hold them to just 17 points, and they were 2 of 10 on third downs. Brock Purdy did not look great, but here is in the post game, Brock Purdy, and see if you can hear it. It might be a little faint in the post game when he meets up with Brian Flores and the compliment that he gives him.
Great job. Great job, dude. The scheme is crazy.
I think he said the scheme is crazy. Was that he told him, like, the scheme is crazy, and it is a crazy scheme. It's done a really good job of, trying to limit offenses in critical, crucial situations. I still think Brock Purdy actually held his own. I think he threw for what was it, over 300 yards, but I think he was sacked 6 times. His QBR was 46. And so he threw for a lot of yards, but I think they they weren't as efficient in critical moments in the red zone, on third down. So he's pretty much a kind of a situational guy, kind of situational chess master, and he was able to do some really creative things in terms of expanding like his spectrum of defense. The things that he will do, like he'll go zero blitz, but he'll also drop 8 and just send 3, like that. The spectrum of things you're going to see from Brian Flores apparently are very extreme, like his counters and his changeups. And there's another clip here of Dan Orlovsky. Can we pull that up for the people, Patrick? Dan Orlovsky, he claims, now like I said, I didn't get a chance to dive into and watch that game, so I got to go back and watch it. But he claims that Brian Flores did such a great job in that game of being a chess master that he may have outmaneuvered Kyle Shanahan in a sense by helping the Vikings pull out that win. Here's Dan Orlovsky on NFL Live.
How many times in your guys' life do you think Kyle Shanahan has been outcoached?
Oh, like
not many.
3 or 4.
He was definitely
the last
outcoached.
time they played Brian Flores last year.
I think Kyle was outcoached yesterday by both Flores and Kevin O'Connell. I think Kevin O'Connell has absolutely gotten himself into the conversation for as good a breadcrumb layer as there is in the NFL. Like, I get into this formation, I get into this look, and I want to see what you do with it defensively because I have that second or third or fourth option to go off of it. Really, both of the touchdown passes from Sam Darnold yesterday were plays that he ran beforehand that he was like, okay, what are you in? How did you align to it? And this is what I can go to. I think that you can make the case. The Vikings are as offensive and defensively well coached as anybody in the NFL.
Okay, I think that's taking it too far. I'll say. I mean, I think they won, of course, and I think Brian Flores did. He basically, from what I can gather, situationally, he was able to come up with very creative counters and changeups, basically on third and fourth down, because the 49ers were 2 of 10 on third down. They were 1 of 3 on fourth down. I mean, Purdy still threw for 300 yards, and they still had a 100-yard rusher in Jordan Mason. It was just on those when they needed to convert on a crucial third down, they couldn't do it. They were still moving the football, and they still made plays. And he got pressure. I think they sacked Purdy 6 times, which is also really good, and they forced 2 turnovers. So I just think situationally, the defense stepped up. And the reason this is important is because they play Texans. And basically and we've talked about this, for CJ Stroud going up against that defense, the Texans have a tendency to get in third and long a lot. Way too often. Patrick, you agree, right? It's almost because I feel like they just have the confidence in CJ Stroud that, man, we can call someone, and CJ Stroud will.
Well, I mean,
he'll be miraculous.
They get a lot of penalties.
Third down.
They get a lot of penalties.
They get a lot of penalties. A good point. And you talked about even in the first 2 weeks, right? And they didn't run the ball consistently. They don't run the ball consistently on early downs. And last year, nobody had more 3rd and 10 plus conversions in the passing game than CJ Stroud. Like, if it was a 3rd and 10 plus yards to go to get a first down, nobody had more conversions in that situation than CJ Stroud. So the Texans last year were a lot in third and long, and this year they've still had that situation. But they've been able to convert because CJ Stroud is amazing. But that could be a problem if you're consistently in third and long, not in third and manageable against these Vikings. And if he was able to do that against the original Shanahan, or one of the OGs, the original Shanahan, the Mick Shanahan clan, by the way, and Bobby Slowick and D'Amico Ryans, I mean, they're very familiar with, of course, the way Shanahan works, and they have, to a certain point, took the template and the blueprint especially in terms of conceptually on offense. So I think a lot of the things that you saw from, obviously from Brian Flores versus the 49ers, you're probably going to see versus the Texans. And to try to defend some of those same concepts. So third down is going to be big. And it'll be a really good test for CJ Stroud because apparently we have another clip here from, I believe it's Devin McCourty, if I'm not mistaken. Thanks, Patrick. He's talking on a podcast about Brian Flores, and he played under Brian Flores, and of course has studied him since. And he talks about basically how diverse, how much variety there is in his play calling and his concepts. Here is Devin McCourty talking about what Brian Flores is bringing to the table.
Impressed you specifically scheme-wise what they did to Purdy yesterday?
I think it's the same thing. It's the switch up. It's not allowing quarterbacks to get comfortable. It's saying, hey, we're going to send, and that's what Flo does more than anybody. We're going to send max blitz. We're going to send 6 guys at you. And then maybe 2 third downs later, you're getting ready. They're coming for you. Then he sends max coverage. He only sends 3 guys, and he drops a bunch of guys. So he does that better than anybody. It's hard to game plan for. And once you get in the game, sometimes it's a little too late of once you kind of figure it out. And, credit to him because it's not just Purdy. It's also confusing Kyle Shanahan, who has proven to be one of the best offensive minds in the game.
When you got them on if they're 1 of 3, think about that on 4th downs. Essentially, they call it a turnover on downs. That's turnover. You forced 2 turnovers. You got 6 sacks. Right? And in addition to that, you got them 2 of 10 on 3rd downs. So you got him punting the football. So it's almost like he dialed it up when he needed to dial it. It's like he had something specially ready for critical downs. All right, money downs, let's go. I got it. And he almost used the rest of the plays to troubleshoot and get them in a situation where he wanted them. It's like I said, it was a game plan. It was like, I'm not going to stop Shanahan's offense. Why would I try? Why would I waste time trying to stop it? I just need to wait until there's a critical down, a crucial down, and now it's easier to do, by the way, without your Christian McCaffrey and without Deebo Samuel. Easier to do. No, don't get me mistaken. The Texans, I think, actually right now have more weapons than the 49ers do. Just because
I don't know, but Mixon may not be playing this week, so.
Okay, well then there you go.
With the ankle injury, we just don't. I don't believe we've seen I don't think we've gotten a report if he's going to be playing or not.
Okay, all right. Well, that's. Either way, be ready for the critical downs. The 3rd down, 4th down. That also the 49ers had a block punt in that game. They had a disastrous stretch where they had really to start the damn game pretty much. They had punt, block punt, turnover on downs, turnover on downs. That's how he started the game.
I do have
that was big too.
I do have somewhat of a theory of the punts, of just what I've seen of the punts so far this year, that because of the new kickoff rules, they just basically thought people remembered how to do punt coverage, and they did not spend enough time, because I've seen way too many punts getting close to be blocked, by 4 or 5 guys, where they just
Texans had one, right?
They've had one blocked, and then it's 2 or 3 close, and some other games we watch, it's just getting closer. And I think some teams.
So you're saying with the limited time, they're spending it all on the new kickoff and not on.
Yeah, I think
coverage.
Instead of changing up the time to say, well, let's spend a little bit more time and still make sure our punt defense, our punt blocking is still up to par. We're just going to spend it on this thing, and that way we won't. So I just noticed it. It'll probably even out by the middle of the season, into the season, because you'll have more time to get back to it. But early on, it just seemed like more and more teams were not figuring it out. And it's not a new play. It's not like there's some new concept of how they're rushing the punter, but they're just not blocking it very well right now. And a lot of punters are having trouble getting the ball off and getting it off short. So it's something I noticed. And it's not every team, just some of them seem to have a little bit more trouble blocking for the punt right now. And you think that maybe you're not allowing enough time with special teams.
I'm on board with that theory. I think that's money. I mean, they're devoting extra time to the kickoff. They have to.
Because no one knows the rules. You don't want to get a penalty. Because that's the whole thing. It starts at the 30, but if you get a 10-yard penalty on it and you're at the 10 because someone held or started too early, you get a legal procedure, that's a huge play. So I get that you're spending time like, do not get a penalty. You cannot cost us 5 to 10 yards at this part of the field.
So if I'm a coach and I believe in your theory, I should be more aggressive on my punt block units.
Yes.
I should be more aggressive because teams they're not gonna get the experience they need and get the reps they need in punting until probably another week or so, probably a month into the season.
Yeah, something like that.
And then, like you said, the practice reps won't matter as much. But so they've missed those reps in training camp and in practice because of the new kickoff rule. Now it's the time to take advantage of it. I love that. I bet it holds too if you do I don't know, maybe some research about punts that have been blocked in the first 2 weeks. I might have to look at it. I did the research on where I found this stat about kickoffs. Kickoffs, field goals. Remember I told you I was going to do the research about field goals, and I was like, I feel like there are a lot more field goals right now in the first 2 weeks compared to last year. And boom, it is the case because it made sense, right? You have fewer touchdown passes. You have fewer explosive plays because teams are playing two high safeties a lot. So teams are running the football more and they're throwing it underneath more. So you're not scoring as many touchdowns, I would say, via the pass that way because you have fewer passing touchdowns. So I think teams are now settling more for field goals because they don't have the explosive plays that they used to have in the offense. So in 2023, 17.6% of drives ended in field goal attempts. So far in 2024, 22.5%, basically 23% of drives ended in field goal attempts. And like you pointed out, they're long. They're 50 plus yarders. Like they're long field goals that teams have. So anyway, just want to throw that stat out there because you got me thinking about special teams. That's a good point. But and the Texans need to watch it because they've had a punt blocked and the Vikings just blocked a punt.
Yep.
So to your report about special teams, that could be a big in terms of flipping the momentum in this game. But watch, because Brian Flores didn't stop the 49ers strangely enough. They still got their yards. They just didn't step up in critical moments. Money downs specifically. So that's what we'll watch in that matchup. All right, let's talk about the Cowboys and the Ravens just really quickly, and then we'll get to Texas football and go behind the burnt orange curtain. I love this matchup for the Cowboys, just like I like the matchup for the Texans because they get to go up against a guy who just had a really effective game plan versus a team that runs the same system that they run. Right, the 49ers are one of the originators of that system, and the Texans have taken that blueprint, and now they run a very similar system defensively and offensively. And the Minnesota Vikings just beat that team, right? That's the model for what you do the Texans that you're trying to do even better. So I like that test from week to week, back-to-back weeks, as we just described. I like the test for the Cowboys because you have an issue against the power running game. That's pretty obvious, as we talked about it yesterday. You have an issue versus teams that can throw out power sets, power packages, power personnel groupings on offense, and you have an issue just stopping the run overall. Well, you're about to go up against the best running quarterback in the league, one of the best running quarterbacks of all time, and you're about to go up against probably the most productive running back in the last 6 years in the league in the same backfield, and they'll do it from a spread look as well. So you might have to defend it with lighter boxes. So you got to be really fundamentally and technically sound in your run game and your run fits and your gap integrity. And you were not versus the New Orleans Saints. So it is the perfect test for the Cowboys. Now, they won't line up in the power sets, but they could because it is in their DNA. I mean, that's how Lamar Jackson won his first MVP. Was they said they would line up in 22 personnel and 21 personnel and 12 personnel, double tight, and lined up and playing power football against teams. Now they don't have Greg Roman there anymore. Now they got Todd Monken, and they're running his version of the air raid and the spread, but it's in their DNA, and they're watching the film. We saw, the New Orleans Saints use that blueprint. We saw the Buffalo Bills, get outside of their identity to use that blueprint in 2023 against the Cowboys. I think, I'm not saying you're going to see that element, but you're definitely going to see some power and some downhill running game. Wouldn't be surprised. Maybe it's from the pistol because they don't like Lamar Jackson under center. So from the pistol and then have Derrick Henry behind him. But they definitely want to get that dude going downhill on these Cowboys.
Yeah.
If
No,
they don't. That's a dang coaching mistake.
It's a big test and one that you wish you had a couple more weeks for than just get eaten up on the run game and then have to go again right away. Now the positive is Alvin Kamara also caught some passes. I don't think Derrick Henry's going to do that, but you have to watch out for Justice Hill. They've thrown to Justice Hill a lot, so I think you'll see a dose of Justice Hill in this game as well for the Ravens, because that way they can also throw to him out of the backfield.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. It's a good point. And we'll get to Jerry Jones's thoughts, and we have Micah Parsons' thoughts about the performance on defense for the Cowboys. I was a little surprised. Jerry Jones did not seem that frustrated with the defense, and we'll get to what he said about the running back position. Oh man, like I said, Jerry Jones always surprises me with some of his comments, and he did it once again about the running back position. Or maybe Jerry Jones is just I don't know. Maybe he's delusional.
Just Jerry's being Jerry.
Yeah, I can't. Sometimes I can't tell if he's being real or if he's just playing it up for the media. But we'll get you his comments later on. We'll do that coming up next hour, and we'll talk about the Cowboys. All right, next segment. Let's get into some Texas football conversation. We'll jump into Isaiah Bond getting some love as one of the fastest humans in college football. We'll also talk about the young standout performers for the Longhorns that are getting some recognition from Pro Football Focus. Ryan Wingo, Anthony Hill getting some recognition, Colin Simmons. We'll talk about those guys coming up when we go behind the burnt orange curtain and dive into some Texas football conversation right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Davis coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get into some Texas football conversation. Let's talk about, first of all, Isaiah Bond and his 50-yard touchdown run. According to Real Analytics, they have his touchdown run, him being clocked at 22.1 miles per hour on his touchdown run. Against UTSA, and that would be the fastest in the country for week 1 as a ball. Sorry, week 3 for as a ball carrier for college football, according to Real Analytics, and their I believe they do it based on the like GPS tracking. So they do use like some AI GPS tracking. And they remember last year they had Xavier Worthy as the fastest player in college football. Turns out they were right about that because they ended up setting the record for the 40-yard dash at the NFL Combine, and they had him at 22.7 miles per hour. At 22.7, they had Jaden Blue as the fastest running back in the country at 22.3 miles per hour. And I believe for X-Man that was on that, I believe it was on like a punt return or something where he ended up reaching 22.7. But that Isaiah Bond can go. He can run. 22.1 miles per hour. By the way, that would be faster than the fastest ball carrier in the NFL through the first 2 weeks of the season. The fastest ball carrier has been Nico Collins. Actually, they have Nico Collins at 21.8 miles per hour. Next gen stats, by the way. So different companies, different entities here. And Jerome Ford, they have him at 21.2 miles per hour. They have Alec Pierce and Brandon Echoes at 21.2 miles per hour. So through the first 2 weeks of the season. So Isaiah Bond, he would be one of the fastest ball carriers, basically for week 3. And I haven't got to go but look back and see who in college football has basically in week 2 and week 1, what their fastest ball carriers were. I'll go check that out. But I mean, you may have the fastest guy in football through the first 2-3 weeks of the season, college or pro, in Isaiah Bond. He's got that kind of world-class speed. He did have, I remember seeing the, I believe it was Pro Foot. No, it was actually, I'll take it back. It was Pro Football Focus. They had him as tracked at having 18 plays in 2023 where he hit at least 20 miles per hour. And the only receiver in the FBS who had more such plays where they hit at least 20 miles per hour was Xavier Worthy, who, of course, arguably is the fastest human being in football. So he can, I don't know what he's going to run at the combine. I mean, he may be a 4.2 guy too. I don't know if he's going to run what Xavier Worthy run and set a record, but he may be a 4.2 guy. Sark's guys are fast. Yeah. I mean, you had 2 of the, if not what, the 2 fastest wide receivers at the combine. A.D. Mitchell was in that conversation too. I think he was like top 4, top 5 fastest guys at his position at the combine. And then of course you had before him, John Ross was the fastest human at the combine in the history of the combine, and Sark coached him too when he was at Washington. Sark's got a type.
Yeah, if I was Isaiah Bond, to be making sure before the combine I was finding out whoever Xavier Worthy worked with, all the speed coaches and all of that. And
yep, that would help. Yeah, no, that's, I mean, Isaiah Bond was I believe 100 meter, 200 meter state champion in Georgia, if I'm not mistaken. I have to go back, but in one of those, maybe in both actually, but definitely in one of those. So he's a track guy. He just, Sark is great at identifying. Usually, guys who have world class speed, they basically are world class, speedsters who happen to play football.
Yeah.
But he's able to identify the football players with world class speed.
Yes.
And there's a difference. There's, there's the guys with world class speed who play football, and then there are football players with world class speed, and there's a difference.
Yes. No, of course. And I mean, there's plenty of guys who can outrun everybody but not make a catch. Can't run routes. They can't time things out properly. They don't get real good separation. They can't take a hit. They fumble the ball. There's a bunch of other things. And also You have to find the football player with that competitiveness that, I think Xavier Worthy last year, the example you can put is how many times that dude kept coming back into games.
Oh, yeah, it's tough, man.
And
It's
when
tough
you
for a
just say
little
that
dude.
guy who's like, I will do anything to try and win, that's the guy you need to find as well. So you have to find someone who's uber competitive, a football player, and then also one of the fastest people in the world.
Yeah. Okay, so during Bond's high school career, yeah, they basically his in his junior, I believe, yeah, he basically they won the Georgia High School Association Class 5A and 6A state championships for 3 straight years. So they were really good football. But in track, he won the Georgia High School Association Class 6A 100 meters and 200 meters in 2021 as a junior. And with a personal best of, as he says here, 10.4 and 21 flat. So, and that was as a junior. So I don't know. I don't even know if he ran. I don't know what he ran as a senior or what, but that's just what it says he ran as a junior. That's pretty damn fast. I imagine probably senior year probably could knock another millisecond off of there. Probably got to 10.3 or something like that. That he certainly looked like it on that 50-yard touchdown run. So there you go. Sark once again proven he has a type, and that's usually the speed demons, the football players who happen to have world-class speed. Let's also talk about Colin Simmons a little bit. And I saw this stat, and it just, to me, shows you that it's a guy that needs to be playing more. And they are playing him more, by the way. So I'm not criticizing the coaches because they are playing him more, and he needs to play more. The more he plays, the better he is. Shout out to my man Nash at Nash Talks Texas. Snaps for Colin Simmons, 11 snaps in the first game. He got a pressure and a run stop. Second game against Michigan, 21 snaps, got a sack, got 6 pressures in that game. And in the UTSA game, got 30 snaps, 6 pressures, 1 sack, and 2 run stops. The more he plays, the better he is. He should play more. Just that simple. He's a guy. I mean, there's certain guys now, even the young guys, they have to play more. And Colin Simmons is one of them. And coaches know that. That's why they're playing him more. All right. I think they're trying to ease him in. So that's good because they want him by SEC play. You want him playing as much as possible. And I think in as many roles as possible. So you see him not only as a pass rusher, but he's dropping back in coverage at times. They're using him in a Sam backer role at times, and he can handle it. He's versatile enough, and he can, as long as I don't see him, covering downfield. But most of the time, I want him in a predictable pass rushing situation. I want him rushing the passer. But I have no problem at all with them expanding his role. I think that's what they're doing. They don't just want him early on just as a young guy that they bring out there as a pass rusher, and that's it. I think they want to start. He's a prodigy. I think they want to start accelerating his development, which makes perfect sense to me. Put it all on his plate. He can handle it. We skip prodigies upgrades, right? They get to skip ahead because they're better than the rest of their peers. He's one of them dudes. So Simmons, got to see him play more. We'll see what his snap count is in that ULM game. And Ryan Wingo, I'll just say this about, because I saw the accolades he got from Pro Football Focus. So Pro Football Focus, they gave away their weekly awards. So they got Ryan Wingo as the highest graded true freshman in week 3. They got him as the third highest graded receiver overall in week 3. And they had him on the their Pro Football Focus SEC Team of the Week in week 3. So their analytics love Ryan Wingo as much as we do. He's also a guy that's got to play more. He's got a chance. I don't think Colin Simmons really has this chance because Texas historically has had so many great defensive linemen, edge rushers, defensive players, period. But Ryan Wingo's really got a chance because Texas hasn't had a long history of all-time great wide receivers. He's actually got a chance to, to compete, to be in the conversation, to be like the best receiver in Texas football history. Like he could be in that. He has a shot. Depends on how he starts his career. His start has been pretty damn good, and depends on how long he stays. All that kind of stuff too. That's why Xavier Worthy was in that conversation. I don't think he surpassed Roy Williams or Jordan Shipley.
Yeah.
But after Roy Williams and Jordan Shipley, I mean, he's probably right there. Is he not? I mean,
yeah. I mean,
considering what he did,
you have to go way back to,
because the history of our passing game as Texas passing game as a program is not that deep.
No,
it's pretty much started with Makovic coming in. It's like that's when your modern passing game comes in. So you really don't have a long history. You can pretty go back pretty much 25, 30 years for Texas, and that's the history of your passing game. So you're the all-time greatest wide receivers. It's a conversation that's a bit it's not a deep one.
No,
right? It's just like I said. So I think he's got a shot to be up there with those guys, with what Xavier Worthy did, with Jordan Shipley and Roy Williams. He's got that kind of raw ability as a player. He's averaging 31 yards per touch, guys. It's free.
And then you throw in that playing on a really good team that the possibility to go do something special that always helps out your reputation, your legacy.
Yes.
Because if you can add a title and a ring to one of those, then that automatically elevates you to a different level. And
you're gonna be the favorite target of Arch Manning.
Yeah.
Don't you think he'll end up being his favorite target?
I don't see any reason why he wouldn't.
Right? I mean, he'd be my favorite target if I was like, man, I'm waiting on Wingo. Make a T-shirt, waiting on Wingo, baby. That's it. So I just throwing it out there. I think he's that special. Like I said, I don't know if he'll do it, but like I said, I'm not saying he's gonna be the GOAT. I'm not saying he's gonna be better than Jordan Shipley or better than Roy Williams, but he's got a chance to be in that conversation. I think he's got that kind of raw talent there, and I don't know if you've had a guy with that kind of ceiling come in a really long time. The X-Men really has ceiling, but he's got a ceiling that's as high, if not higher, than X-Men. And I don't think we knew what X-Men ceiling was early on, because he has some limitations and deficiencies in his skill set. Athletic profile, size is probably the first one.
Yeah,
Ryan Wingo doesn't have those deficiencies. There really isn't necessarily a deficiency in his skill set, or a liability in his skill set or his frame. So that's why I think he may have a little bit more upside than even an X-Man. And I'm talking about a first round wide receiver there. Roy Williams was a first round wide receiver. Roy Williams was taken in the top 10, I believe, somewhere around there. It was something freaky. It's like 7 or 8. I don't know, somewhere around there. And I think Jordan was like a third round pick. Jordan probably should have been drafted higher. Jordan was awesome. Still, I think the GOAT. I got to miss the great 7. Okay. I think I got to miss the greatest wide receiver of all time. And only reason I don't have Roy there is because Roy never scored a touchdown in the Texas OU game. You can't be the GOAT if you never scored. Well, Brad B scored more touchdowns than you in the Texas OU game.
Wingo, you got your goal in just like 3 weeks.
You got to score in that game. If you don't score in that, I mean, you got 4 years to do it. 3, I guess, if you're really good. Still, that's enough time. All right, we'll come back. That's enough Texas talk. We'll come back. We'll get into the topic for the Big Fat Poll today, and we'll get into the musically themed day of the week right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. On Lifetime Mohun, Rod Davis coming back on the horn.
Back on the Rodcast on a Wednesday morning, and that means it's a one artist Wednesday here on the show. And today we'll do something a little bit different of a one artist Wednesday. As this is the one artist Wednesday for today is Nile Rodgers. It is Nile Rodgers' birthday tomorrow. Nile Rodgers is one of those guys you may not know the name. You may know the name, but he is extremely influential and has a great catalog between being a musician and then songwriter and producer. He has done tons and tons and tons of hit music. This is the original band that he was with, Chic, that he did. So Chic, if you remember them, he was part of that, but we'll be playing some Chic and then some of the other famous music that he has been a part of for Nile Rodgers since it is birthday tomorrow. But a very eclectic and vast.
Nile Rodgers.
Nile Rodgers.
All right. Oh my God, I really hadn't even heard of it. All right, so now I'm learning something new.
Yeah, I was watching some Tiny Desk concerts the other day, and then
I love those.
And
yeah,
so and I saw
stuff.
his come up, and then I was blown away, and then went down the rabbit hole after watching the Tiny Desk to see all this other stuff he'd done. Those. And so I knew some of it, and I knew he was super talented, but I did not realize the expanse of it. So as we go through it, and then you'll get to hear some different really famous artists that he's worked with. And so Chic started off because Nile Rodgers is kind of the main the main influence behind Chic, or the main writer behind Chic. But we'll keep playing those throughout on a one artist Wednesday. Let's get to the big fat poll of the day. 512-447-3776 is the text line number, and we'll get this posted up on X at the Horn ATX.
Patrick's Big Fat Poll of the Day on the Horn.
Big fat poll of the day today. We talked a little bit about 2-0 and 0-2 teams in the NFL yesterday, so I thought we'd piggyback off of that and ask you, which 2-0 team in the NFC has the best chance to make it to the Super Bowl? So if we're just looking at NFC teams that are 2-0, which is the Minnesota Vikings, New Orleans Saints, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and Seattle Seahawks. We know the NFC, San Francisco has held that Super Bowl position and been kind of the team that normally goes. There's been some other teams that'll eventually get up there, but out of those four, none of those four going into the season, anybody had real aspirations to make it anywhere. They're the only 2-0 teams in the NFC right now. So if we're saying from the NFC, one of those teams has the best chance to make it to the Super Bowl, is it the Vikings, the Saints, the Buccaneers, or the Seahawks?
Man, that's a great question. Oh, that is really good. Out of those teams, who do I think has the best chance? There's no way I can go with Sam Darnold. I think he's playing good, but I can't go with Sam Darnold. I can't do that.
Yeah, that's
because I just haven't had enough sample size. It's
and we're saying you're going with Darnold, Carr, but Mayfield or Smith,
Geno Smith, exactly. Like all of them have taken they're circuitous. All of them are taking like a circuitous route.
Yes,
to get to where they are. Man, okay. That is good. Seattle's defense is legit there with Mike McDonald. No doubt about it. It's the real deal. And Geno's playing some of his best football. Baker Mayfield's playing some of his best football. Right now, I'm going with New Orleans. I'm going with New Orleans. I'm going with them.
You going New Orleans?
The team with the best shot. Yeah. And you know what? I would dive into it deeper on the other side because there's a theory, actually, a funny theory going around. I think it might have started on TikTok. I don't have TikTok, so I'm probably late to the theory. I got it via, I got it via Twitter. Anytime you got a TikTok via Twitter, it's months late. It's months late. But I think this one is, at least in the last couple of weeks, it came out. And there's a theory floating around about Derek Carr. So maybe it's been out there before. But I'll give you that theory and why I think New Orleans is the pick here. But Clint Kubiak and what he's done with that offense is amazing. I mean, going from being a team that uses the offensive cheat codes of play action pass and pre-snap motion at the lowest rates in the NFL last year, and now using them at the top 3 highest rates in the NFL. And they have really transformed Derek Carr. He's got the fewest checkdowns in the league. Wow. Fewest checkdowns.
That's crazy.
Like, fewest checkdowns in the league. Nobody's checking the ball down. And when you think of Derek Carr, you're like, oh man, really? He's not checking the ball down at all. It's unbelievable what's going on with New Orleans right now.
Do you think Mark Davis and Devontae Adams are just sitting in Vegas watching it, just like, What did we do?
What
Why
did you do?
Why do we listen to that idiot Josh McDaniels?
They definitely. That's a lot of teams regretting their decision right now because of these quarterbacks the way they're playing. Right, Baker. I expected Baker to be like this. So if you're what
Cleveland?
Carolina, wasn't he?
If you're Cleveland and you were paying Deshaun Watson a ton of money to be mediocre,
yeah, think about that. Yeah, man, look at exactly. Ooh, man, and this guy's playing like a top right now, playing like a top 10 quarterback in the league for the first 2 weeks. Crazy. But that's a great question, man. Because right now, Sam Darnold's the only one I will say it's not going to happen. Man, Baker Mayfield has won playoff games. we gotta forget that about Baker Mayfield. That this is a guy that it seemed like it was so long ago because it was so many teams ago. But man, we've seen Baker win playoff games, guys.
No, there's
multiple different teams.
There's still players on this Bucs roster that won the Super Bowl with Tom Brady.
They probably would be honestly, strangely enough.
They have guys that have that
one, and it's in the same division too. So.
Exactly. No one thought the NFC South was going to have anybody, and right now you're saying, well, the two best shot are NFC South teams.
Yeah, but it's because honestly, that's a really good question, man. I think you can make the case I can make a really good case. I can make a really good case for Tampa and for New Orleans. I'll take New Orleans right now. That'll be my pick. But it's a good question. That is a conversation starter right there. That'll make you ponder because you just didn't. Nobody expected these are the four.
The only four in the NFC that
teams.
are undefeated right now.
I didn't even realize that and think to myself, wow, out of all the teams, these are the teams with all of the quarterbacks who are definitely exceeding expectations. And we talked about this yesterday. They are all the biggest surprises right now. If you look at QBR, passer rating, and Pro Football Focus passing grades for quarterbacks, Derek Carr's at the top of each one of those metrics. He's leading the NFL in passer rating, at QBR, and in Pro Football Focus passing grade. But second in Pro Football Focus passing grade is Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray is fifth in passer rating. He is second in QBR. Sam Darnold is third in Pro Football Focus passing grade. He is sixth in passer rating. He is fifth in QBR. Geno Smith having a grade. He is seventh, I believe, in passer rating, and he is fourth in QBR. Just didn't expect Baker Mayfield second overall in passer rating right now and sixth in QBR. Unbelievable. Like I'm with you. I'm gonna go New Orleans. I'm fixated about that New Orleans offense, man. And the defense is not playing bad either. We don't give the defense enough credit, but to have a plus 62 point differential in the first 2 weeks of the season,
it's impressive.
Man,
that's impressive.
It's very impressive. All right. Good question there. All right. We'll get back to the topic for the Big Fat Poll today. I'll make my case. I'll give you that this Derek Carr TikTok kind of trend that was discovered. And honestly, I think it's fascinating. I don't know what it says about him and what it says about his political beliefs, but it may point to him feeling a certain kind of way about political discourse in this country. We'll just say that. That's the best tease I can give you. We come back, we'll give you that, and we'll talk some NFL news, notes, and nuggets right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Rivers coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a one artist Wednesday edition of the Rodcast. That's when my man Patrick, my co-host and the ideaillionaire on the show, who comes up with all the musically themed days of the week. That's when he plays jams after he goes deep down the rabbit hole into the catalog of one specific artist, group, or band. And today that artist is Nile Rodgers, correct? Nile
Yes,
Rodgers.
Nile
All right,
Rodgers.
and give me his resume again, because like I said,
So
first time I'm
he's
hearing about
originally
him,
from
but
Chic, but he is a
okay,
songwriter, producer. He wrote this song for Diana
okay.
Ross,
Oh
and
man,
one of the things you'll
well
notice
done.
is that very iconic guitar tone and the sound that's
Is
very
that his
still
signature or
similar.
something?
So you'll
Okay.
notice it in a lot of the stuff you play. Is that it's a great right hand and
All right.
some special guitar playing. But Nile Rodgers, lots of different stuff. But yes, wrote this song for Diana Ross. Wrote some other hits for Diana Ross too.
I mean, yeah, this song is iconic. Obviously, it's been covered multiple times. People have used the chorus and they've used the
Yeah.
beat and everything. Yeah, I mean, so wow. All right, so there you go. Already learned something, but that is a nice little factor. That's why I love all the musically themed days of the week. I also love the conversation starters that we get from the topic for the big fat poll today. Patrick, give the folks the topic for the big fat poll of the day.
Big fat poll today. Which 2-0 team in the NFC has the best chance to make it to the Super Bowl?
Oh, I love this, man. This is good. This is good. It's only 4 choices, and they're all very random and very unexpected. Minnesota, New Orleans, Tampa Bay, and Seattle. And all of them have quarterback stories that just start the season at least, or just pleasant surprises, I'm sure, to say the least. I mean, it's fantastic because they're really cool stories, because each of them is in their own way was kind of a cast off at one point.
Yeah.
And they'd had to take that circuitous route to being a starting quarterback, but now they're playing, and we talked about this yesterday, some of the best football we've seen the best football we ever seen from Sam Darnold. We haven't seen him play this well ever. We have, honestly, you could make the argument we haven't seen Derek Carr. Now it's only 2 games, but we haven't seen Derek Carr this good. He's leading the NFL in passer rating and QBR and Pro Football Focus passing grade. Baker Mayfield, second in passer rating right now, and he's top 6 in QBR. And so that's why Tampa Bay's undefeated. And same thing with Geno Smith. He's playing really good football right now. He's top 10 in passer rating. I think he's 7th actually in passer rating, and he's 4th in QBR. These quarterbacks, man, they're just playing really good. I think there's a lot that'll add to that. But here's real quick my theory about Derek Carr. I'm choosing the New Orleans Saints. That's who I'm picking. And for a lot of reasons. First of all, they have gone through the most extreme. We talked about this most extreme makeover we've seen from an NFL team on offense. Maybe, honestly, guys, I'm not joking. Maybe ever. I know it sounds crazy and maybe be prisoner of the moment, but from 1 year to, like I said, they were last in play action pass rate last year and last in pre-snap motion rate last year. They were 25th in design rollouts last year. This year, first in play action pass rate, first in design rollouts, 5th in motion at the snap, and 3rd in pre-snap motion rate. They're not even recognizable. Like, you don't even recognize them anymore. You have no idea. They right now, no team other than the Saints has used play action on 40+% of their passes in 2024. The Saints have used both play action and pre-snap motion simultaneously on 40+% snaps. Actually, on 42% of their snaps. The highest season-long rate in NFL history for a team using both pre-snap motion and play action pass on the same snap is 32%. That's the highest season-long rate we've seen. Right now, they're at 42%, and they're not slowing down. And they're not just doing it with the spread offense. We saw versus Cowboys. They're using 2-back sets. Clint Kubiak is going back to Gary Kubiak's old days and some of the original West Coast principles. Original West Coast offense is a 2-back offense, guys, with a fullback. Shano is as close to the old school West Coast offense as anybody because he does have a traditional fullback. It was a 21 set with a fullback. If you go look at the team with the least amount of 3 wide receiver sets, so that's 11 personnel, the New Orleans Saints. They have the least amount of 3 wide receiver sets currently in the NFL. It's like 15 to 20%. They run a lot of 21 personnel, 2 back, 1 tight ends, a lot of 12 personnel, 1 back, 2 tight ends. How about this? Per next gen stats, the Saints aligned under center more than any other offense in week 1. Under center. Because the league's a shotgun league now. Nobody's under center anymore. You don't. That's crazy stuff. You don't go into center anymore. That's old school. They were in the center 61% of the time while using play action on over a third of dropbacks. Last season, the Saints ranked dead last in play action usage, as I said. Bottom 6 in motion rate. The Saints aligned in 2 back formations on a league high 37% of their plays in week 1. They're under center and they're using 2 back sets. They're using 2 back sets as much, if not more, than Shanahan. They used it just 6% in 2023. They used it 37% in week 1. Condensed formations, they were 27% last season. Condensed compressed sets, they're at 53% condensed formations in week 1. And then against Dallas, so that was week 1. Against the Cowboys, Saints aligned under center, 42 of 56 plays. Downhill running game. Had 2 backs on the field for 53% of the plays. In both cases, that was the most by any team in any game since the Patriots versus the Bills in the 2021 Win Bowl. I mean, it's just they have, it's an extreme makeover. I haven't seen anything like it. I don't know, in my time watching the NFL, just in one year to the next. And Derek Carr's check down rate, guys, 2.3% of his passes are check downs. His last year, he was at 9.4%. He was at 8.3% in 2022. He was at 9.6% in 2021. He was at his 2020, he was at 7.6%. That's good. 2.3% of his throws are check downs. He ain't no check. Right in a check down Charlie league where we are right now. More guys checking down than ever before. We're check down Charlie league. This dude is under center. Old school, like he's playing in 1992. All right. With 2 back sets like it's 1987 and chunking it downfield. It's wild, man. I'm telling you, we ain't seen nothing like it. And right now, he's the best quarterback in the league, leading the NFL in passer rating, QBR, and leading the NFL in Pro Football Focus passer rate. Now, here's the political slant to it. Here's the political slant, ladies and gentlemen, for Derek Carr. His best years have been in election years. In 2016, while the country is in the midst of this heightened and heated political discourse, the very sensitive political climate that we all in during election season, for some reason, Derek Carr seems to ball out. Have no idea what it is. 2016, they went 12-3. And he had a really good season. And that's the fewest interceptions that he's thrown in a season. He had 28 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and they went 12-3. They were balling in 2016. Matter of fact, he had a game where he had 500 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions on the road. People were saying they were calling for him to be the MVP. There was some MVP chance for him that year because he played so well. And then in 2020, and think about it, 2016, think about what's going on. All right. President Trump ran for the first time. We had never seen anything like that before. Our political civility that we thought was, something that should always be practiced. He just threw it out the window. Right. Just and turned our political climate into something else that we've never seen. We had never seen a candidate like it. I don't know if we'll ever see anything like it. And yet, Derek Carr balling. 2020, he has his highest passer rating of his career in 2020, except for this year right now, 101.4. Highest pass rating of his career. He had 27 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. 4,100, almost 4,100 yards passing. Had one of his best years in 2020, over 4,100 yards passing. And now, another election season, and Derek Carr is having the season of his life. He's killing it. He's leading the NFL in all metrics, passer rating, QBR. He's got a 142 passer rating. dude is 11. His yards per attempt is 11.4. His highest yards per attempt in his career is 7.9. This dude's at 11.4. His
So
completion percentage is 76.9. That's the highest ever in his career. He's never had a completion percentage higher than 70, and now he's at 76.9. And maybe it's, I don't know, maybe it's something about, I have no idea. Maybe it's President Trump. Maybe either he really likes President Trump or he doesn't like President Trump. I don't know which one it is, and whatever it is, it gets him riled up.
yeah, so is it either that he blocks it all out and it makes him focus completely on football to block out all the other noise of the politics, or
That's true. He's like you. He hates it so much he doesn't even pay attention.
Or does the anger fuel him?
Yes. The country is like tense and angry and mad, and he's oversensitive to it. Where it's like, and then it drives him to another.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Because if that's the case, you need to get that from Star Wars. You just need to get the Emperor Palpatine, just like, let it fuel you.
Let the hate run through you. Yeah, I don't know what it is, but isn't that wild? That like I said, and like I said, I don't know what his political lean is. I have not been able to determine that. I did a little research. I don't know what his political lean is. I don't know if it's conservative. I don't know if it's liberal, progressive. I don't know if he's, decided that he doesn't lean either way. All right, with either party. Maybe he's an independent. I don't know what he is.
Yeah,
don't know. But election season, when this country is at its most, the political discourse it's at its most heightened, and usually at its most heated. That's when we get the best of Derek Carr, and it's happening now. It's the best of the best. I don't know what that means for this election. I don't know what that means. I have no idea. I don't know, because we've had both sides. We've had President Trump win one of those, and then we've Biden won one, and
obviously Trump, that's the problem is the playoffs are after the election, so maybe it just tanks off after that.
Yeah, and that's a good point too. When we look at it, once it's decided, once everything's decided, I go do some real deep research and see once the votes is in and once the election decided, does he just kind of lose his mojo all of a sudden? That is wild, though. That's crazy. Anyway, so that's I don't know. That's for the Twitter sphere and from TikTok there. All right, let's get to our horn headlines here, and then we'll come back. We'll dive into a couple of NFL news, notes, and nuggets. Got some Cowboys nuggets I want to share with you from Jerry Jones. But first, let's get updated, informed, and educated on all the top stories of the day with Patrick Davis and the Horn Headlines.
All right, your Horn Headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. In the MLB, the Astros evened their series with the Padres last night with a 4-3 win in extra innings. Hunter Brown pitched 6 innings, giving up 2 runs, but in the top of the ninth with 2 outs, Jose Altuve fouled a ball off his toe on a call the umpires missed, and Altuve was ejected after taking off his shoe and sock to argue the call. Altuve's replacement, Gray Kissinger, scores the go-ahead run from second and makes the final out with a great play. Tonight, Framber Valdez gets to start facing off against Dylan Cease. The Rangers found their stride at the plate, winning the game 1 of their series with the Blue Jays 13-8. Nathan Eovaldi had a poor start, allowing 7 runs in just 4 2/3 innings. However, the Bats capitalized on opportunities and had 13 runs on 13 hits. Cody Bradford takes him out tonight for the Rangers. And in the NFL, the Dolphins have placed Tua Tagovailoa on IR after suffering a concussion in Week 2. He will now miss at least 4 games. In a corresponding move, the Dolphins have added former Pro Bowl quarterback Tyler Huntley to the roster. And the Chiefs signed Kareem Hunt to their practice squad, looking for help at the running back after Isaiah Pacheco suffered a broken fibula last week. Hunt was drafted by the Chiefs in the 3rd round of 2017, but was cut after the 2018 season following an incident at a hotel. And that is your Horn Headlines.
All right. Thank you, Patrick, for the Horn Headlines. Appreciate those. All right. Let's hear from, I'll read you quotes from Jerry Jones about the running back position. Now, Patrick, yesterday you posed the question, what was more troubling for Cowboys fans, the lack of potency in the backfield for the Cowboys on offense in the run game, or the porous run defense that we watched from the Dallas Cowboys versus the Saints, but even last season versus some downhill power run teams. And I think the defense won.
Yeah, eventually the final vote 60-40. So 60-40,
okay,
which is not great for either one, but it's 60-40.
It's basically like, and trust me, either one can derail any plans you got for a Super Bowl. You can't have two glaring deficiencies like that for the Cowboys. You got to fix whichever one you can. And I think, Patrick, I agree with you. Defense is the easiest one to fix. Trying to fix the one on offense would require you to acquire.
Yes.
It would require you to acquire.
Which,
I say that 5 times.
You should still do.
Yeah, you should still do. You still can trade for running back. You can pick somebody up, but the Dalvin Cook thing seems to be what Jerry Jones is focusing on right now. So when Jerry Jones was asked basically about the running back position and if they're going to trade for one or sign another running back, he said, I quote, "I don't know what you're talking about. I like where we are with our running backs. We have good depth. We just didn't get to see them run Sunday." Yeah. And he was asked about the running back room overall. He said, quote, "We were pleased. We could have had some better protection with our running backs. I don't see a change that could involve Dalvin Cook this week." When he was asked about acquiring, like I said, a running back via trade, he said, "I don't know what you're talking about. I like where we are with our running backs." Wow. That's amazing. I don't know how you can justify saying that.
This is the only justifying
averaging.
The way that I think Jerry Jones is that he wants to win negotiations, and he thinks if I go on the radio and say, yes, we need to get a running back, I have to pay a higher price when I trade for one. So if I go out and try and sign one or trade for one, the price goes up if I admit I need a running back. So I'm not going to admit I need a running back so I can try and get a better deal. The problem with this theory is they're on TV. We can all see it.
So I was like, well, and all you got to do is look at the numbers. The numbers do not lie. You need a running back. Your running backs are averaging less than 4 yards per carry.
No, I mean,
right?
the positive for them is that the trade deadline is pushed back, I think, a week now. So you have a little bit more time to get something done, and they may be waiting for a team to get out of playoff contention. Wait a little bit longer, similar to how the 49ers kind of waited for Christian McCaffrey, and then he became available.
Oh, yeah. Well, 0-3 is it. This is why this is a big test for the Cowboys coming this week, because not only do they have to face a team that can run the ball if they need to, because you got Derrick Henry, who's been one of the more productive running backs the last 6 years, and you got one of the most productive dual threat quarterbacks in the history of the NFL. The Ravens are desperate though. They're 0-2.
Yeah,
you can't start 0-3. You
no,
can't. The chance that you make the playoffs, I think, drop below like 5% or something crazy like that. It's just, So you gotta do. So that's a must win. Almost, it feels like for the Ravens. Feels like a must win for them, and the Cowboys have to deal with that kind of a desperate team, a good team that's desperate, and this will be a really good test for the Cowboys coming off of that embarrassing performance versus the New Orleans Saints. Yeah, the numbers say, how about this? Going back to since the NFL expanded to 7 playoff teams in 2020, just 2 of 32 teams, 6.3%, that started the season 0-2 went on to make the postseason. Going back to 1990, 32 of 279 teams, 11.5%, started 0-2 but still made the playoffs, and only 3 of them went on to win the Super Bowl.
Well, I mean,
0-3 is the death sentence. 0-2 is still bleak, but the Ravens can battle back from 0-2.
0-3 in Mike Tomlin's division.
Yeah, 0-3. Yeah, and that's a great point in that division too. You're right. Where now you got a quarterback that's managing the game.
I mean, I'm just saying, Mike Tomlin with Kirby with what's his name, the quarterback they had last year from Pitt. I can't think of his name right now, but.
Yeah, I forget his name too. Now something is. I'll get it for you.
Yeah, but
you go.
But to the fact that they had a winning record in their division last year, they had the best record in division of that out of any team in that division last season. Mike Tomlin had that without a quarterback at all, and if Justin Fields is playing better than him, then that gives you into a realm of he can win that division again in that place. They're 2-0 to start the season. So he's got a leg up. And so if you're the Ravens or the Bengals, who are both 0-2, you have to start climbing back into that, because you understand it's going to be tough to win that division now with with the Browns still in there. Kenny Pickett, thank you to Amanda on YouTube there for Kenny Pickett. What's the saddest part? All that came to my head was Kirby Puckett. I knew it was a KP.
Kirby
Puckett was all that came to my head.
I can see that though. Actually, I can see that.
So thank you, Amanda. Armando, I can read. It's a little far away from me.
Armando, Amanda, that's okay.
I can't. Right. Yeah. You can tell I'm not great with names. But the fact that they were able to go and have the best record in that division last year makes you believe that this is going to be a tough road to climb back to, then come back and win. And you have the Bengals, who are in the same position as the Ravens right now, of behind the 8 ball on a team that was supposed to be competing for a Super Bowl.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. I don't think the Ravens, they can't come back. And even though they're a good team in that division, as you point out, it's even, I think, more of a bleak scenario for them to come back down 0-3 to make the playoffs. In addition to the numbers I just gave you. So that's why it's, like I said, really good test for the Cowboys, man. This team is going to be, they'll get the Baltimore Ravens' best shot. And by the way, Lamar Jackson versus the NFC. What is he, 20-1? That is some ridiculous number like that he's like 20-1 versus the NFC.
Yeah,
It's I want to say it's something freaky along those lines. If I'm off by a game or two. Because I remember keeping up with this last season, and it makes so much sense. If you don't see Lamar Jackson, that's if you don't see him, but once every couple of years or once every 3 years, that it's shocking to see a quarterback who is that dynamic. And remember, I talked about having to defend 3 plays in one with him on every single play. You defend if it's a pass play, you defend the initial play, him as a pocket passer. Then you got to defend the scramble drill, which is the second phase of that play. And then after the scramble drill, then you defend the most elite dynamic runner, arguably at the quarterback position ever, when he becomes just a runner. And then you got to do it in the open field because everybody's already dropped back into coverage. And this guy's, that's why he averages, I think last year he was averaging close to 7 yards per scramble. So you got to defend 3 plays in one on every pass play. And that is tough. And I remember Sean McVay saying, you don't have anybody to replicate Lamar Jackson at practice for you. You should have a dual threat quarterback on your roster, practice squad or backup quarterback, whatever, to give you a good look and simulate what a dual quarterback is, the problems they're going to present to you. If you don't, then that's just malpractice for you as a GM, because everybody's going to see a dual threat quarterback 6 times a year. At the least, everybody is.
Yeah.
Some people will see him half the schedule, but most teams are going to see it at least 6 times a year. That's just because there's just so many of them in the league now, and you have to be able to defend it. For the Cowboys, big DeMarvion Overshown week. Big remember last week
they start playing.
There were a lot of complaints. Yeah, a lot of complaints from Cowboys fans. Oh man, we didn't see DeMarvion Overshown. I think it was 18 plays that they got to see DeMarvion Overshown total in that game on Sunday. And he was such a big part of the defensive game plan in week 1 against the Browns, because that was a quarterback that moves around, right? You're going against a quarterback that moves around. You want a player like DeMarvion Overshown out there who has, the ability to, run sideline to sideline and has that kind of speed in the open field and is comfortable as a spread baby. Same thing in this game. I think you'll have a lot of opportunities for DeMarvion Overshown to make some plays, and whatever package they have for him, you'll use it and you'll need it versus Lamar Jackson. So I think that's kind of why it's going to be an intriguing matchup for the Cowboys. I'm not sure what Cowboys team we're going to get, but I know we're going to get the best out of the Ravens. I'll tell you that right now. 0-2. Oh yeah. That team and the organization is way too proud to start 0-3. And like I said, you get to go up against the NFC, and they're confident going up against the NFC because, I think they're 20-1 since he became the starter against NFC teams with Lamar Jackson as the starting quarterback. All right.
Yeah. By the way, 20-1. They lost to the Giants in 2022. This is one.
Is that the only loss?
That's his start.
Wow.
As a starter, he is 20-1 against the NFC.
That is a crazy stat that sounds fake. It sounds fake.
Yes.
It's like, that sounds fake. Like, how can that be? But it's because the other teams in AFC, at least they get to see him a little bit more. You got to see it. Even Sean McVay said it took my defense like a half to get used to his speed.
Yeah.
And go at quarterback and go, okay, that's different. I got to adjust my angles. I got to adjust my tech, everything that I need to adjust for more space and more speed, because you just don't see even the running quarterbacks you see, they don't move like him. Because he's just that, that explosive at that position. All right, let's come back. We got Raj Rant on the other side. In Raj Rant, we'll talk about what the offense is going to look like for Texas with Arch Manning. How about that? We'll get into that. What we think the offense is going to look like, how it'll change a little bit from Quinn being the starter to Arch being the starter. We'll get into that on the other side when we go into Raj Rant right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Davis coming back on the horn. Hey, what's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn Rod Davis here. Let's talk about my friend and yours, Dr. Greg Eckert. He's the best dentist in Austin, folks. When people ask me if I know a good dentist, I say no. I know a great dentist, the best dentist, Dr. Eckert and his team. I owe them a huge debt of gratitude. Originally went there just for a routine cleaning and a checkup, but upon that checkup and that routine cleaning, they found, because they're so thorough, that my wisdom teeth were growing in sideways. It was actually potentially on the verge of being a disastrous situation for me, but no need to worry, and there was no need to be concerned. They acted quickly, made sure that I was comfortable and knowledgeable, educated, informed about the process and the procedure, got it scheduled, got everything done. I was back at work within a couple of days. As you guys know, I even went to the Super Bowl, I believe, like the week after that. I was feeling so good. Thanks to Dr. Rick and his team, my dental health and dental hygiene have never been better. And it doesn't matter what I need now. If it's just a cleaning or a checkup or a filling, I know the place to go. And I've been there numerous times, and I encourage you. Now, hopefully for you, it's not as serious as having all your wisdom teeth extracted. Hopefully for you, it's something routine and relatively simple, like a cleaning or just a checkup, general dentistry, teeth whitening. But if it's dentures or porcelain crowns or veneers or dental implants or full mouth reconstruction, even root canal therapy, whatever it is, no matter what it is, whatever it takes to ensure you're getting the best quality dental care available, that's what Dr. Eckert and his team are all about. And right now, he can give you a brand new smile in just one day, permanently secured to your dental implants. No time spent without teeth. You'll get temporary fixtures first until they complete your permanent smile. And you're going to smile again with confidence and eat freely without pain or discomfort. So we're talking about a lifelike permanent solution. So if you've been told your teeth need to be replaced, don't freak out. Just call Dr. Eckert today to learn about this revolutionary alternative to dentures. Even if you have dentures right now, you can call Dr. Eckert for a complimentary consultation, which means you got nothing to lose, but so much to gain. And you can learn that a confident smile can truly change your life. And Dr. Eckert, he can and wants to change your life for the better. So give him a call, 512-345-3166, 512-345-3166, or visit dreckert.com, DRUECKERT.com. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Let's talk some Texas football and getting to what the offense is going to look like. How will it change from Quinn to Arch? And I still think the basic core principles of the Sark offense won't change. The conceptual signatures will be there. It's all about the rates that you see in terms of the subtle tweaks. And with a week to practice now as the starter, now it has not been confirmed by Sark that that Arch is going to be the starter versus ULM, but common sense would tell you, and we all pretty much, I believe it's a 99% chance that he is actually going to start the game. I think there's less than a maybe that's exaggerated. Maybe it's a 95% chance. Maybe there's a 5% chance that Quinn Ewers starts that game. But I think that honestly, I think the odds of it decrease by the day as we get closer and closer. But anyway, he has not confirmed it, but we think he's going to start the game. And if he does, how's the offense going to look and how's it changed? Now, based on just what I watched, the small sample size that we have of Arch playing so far last year in the Tech game, this year in the Colorado State game, and of course, coming in UTSA game, that's what I based it on. At least my prognostications and my projections are based on just that limited sample size that we have. So one thing I think that you'll see more of with arching there, I think you'll see more vertical deep passes. I think you'll see the deep ball more. Quinn so far this season, 7 deep balls, and actually has been pretty good on the deep balls so far this year. I think he was 3 of 7 on his deep passes. But when Arch came in there, I mean, it seemed like he had 3 deep passes just in the short time that he was in there in a UTSA game. And with Quinn having 7 in 3 games where Quinn played, I guess maybe 9 total quarters. I'm not sure. Played all of the Michigan game, played 2.5 quarters in the Colorado State game, played 1.25 or something like that. Maybe in the UTSA game. So he hadn't played that much, and just kind of looking at the rate of his deep passes, I think at least how often, at least like I said, the increased rate of it would Arch, him having 3 deep passes in just that quarter, 2 quarters of football that we've seen him play versus UTSA. I think you may get an increased vertical passing game. I think it's weird to say that because that's not a natural strength of Quinn. He got better at it. I think it may be a natural strength of Arch based on what we saw in the spring game and based on what we've seen just early on. He connected with Ryan Wingo on the 75-yard touchdown, connected with Wingo again on a 39-yard explosive play. Now, it may just be a Ryan Wingo thing, which ain't nothing wrong with that, right? Wait for Wingo, as I've said. Put it on a T-shirt. But if you go look at the ADOT, average depth of target versus UTSA for Quinn Ewers, his average depth of target, 5.1 yards was his average depth of target. For Arch Manning, it was 11 yards. If you go look at air yards, which is what percentage of your passing yards were in through the air, for Quinn, 26%. For Arch, 42%. A lot more of his yards come through the air downfield, of course. That's going to happen when you have explosive plays. Explosive play rate for Arch was 33%. The explosive play rate for Quinn was around 6%. It's possible that you have more shots downfield with Arch Manning than you did with Quinn, because Quinn's elite trait is his ability to throw the football in the short to intermediate range. He's amazing with the way he layers the football, his touch on the football, his accuracy, and he doesn't always have to have proper footwork and mechanics when he's throwing the ball just in that short to intermediate area. And we know that came back to haunt him in the UTSA game. Right, he had one of those mullet Quinn moments where he just no footwork, sloppy play, and just lofted it up there. And he even said that wasn't because of his thumb. He was like, "Yeah, just got sloppy with the footwork," and that's what happens. Ball can sail on you, ball's inaccurate, but when his footwork's on point, combined with his natural arm talent, I don't know if there's anybody better in the country actually in that short to intermediate range. But that's why if you go look at his time to throw for Quinn, he's one of the fastest in the country in his time to throw. I mean, he's between 2.1, 2.3 seconds. I think Arch is going to hold on to the ball a little bit longer because I think they're going to move the pocket with him too. It's another thing. So I think you get more deep balls, by the way. I think you're going to get I think you'll get more movement of the pocket, more designed rollouts for him. I mean, think about the first play, first completion that he had in each of the last 3 appearances has been a design rollout with a flood concept accompanied with it. And he usually hits either that backside crossing route, that backside under route, which was DeAndre Moore's touchdown, which was one of Jonte Cook's receptions there, or depending on the formation, he'll hit that kind of backside. There's a backside like hitch route or a front side hitch route that he hits too, depending on exactly how they run it. But it's a design. Basically, the gist of it is design rollout with a flood concept. It's been the first completion in each of the last 3 appearances. So they like to get him on the move. That 39-yard reception to Ryan Wingo, which was a beautiful throw, a contested catch. It was on the move. And we saw the 67-yard touchdown run, the longest touchdown run by a Texas quarterback since VY did in 2005 against OSU. I think they like him on the move. Now, they don't want to put him in harm's way, so I think Sark will discourage him from scrambling and from designed runs. He won't have that, but in terms of design rollout to give him options, and he may decide every now and then to keep it and turn it into, more of a naked bootleg concept. But I think you'll see a lot more of that. That's when Sark tells us that he asks the quarterbacks what their favorite concepts are before they play so that he'll know what plays to call. That's got to be one that Arch chooses every time because we've seen it to start the game off for him every time. I think you'll also get less pre-snap motions and shifts. When I went and did, that's one thing that did drop for when Quinn was in there. It was around the average for Sark, the pre-snap motion rate, which is usually close to 55%. I've encouraged him to become an extremist in that. It should be 75 to 80%. It was closer to 70-something percent. It was in that range versus Michigan. But I digress. With Arch, it decreased. You got around 45% pre-snap motion and shift away with Arch, which makes sense. You without the practice time, they didn't want him having to navigate that and to get guys lined up in the right place. Maybe a lot to put on his plate as a young quarterback without the practice time, being the starter, working with the ones. This week, maybe you do get the usual average amount of pre-snap motion shifts with Sark's offense because he's had time to work through, a lot of the, kind of the kinks and actually, work with the ones and know the game plan a little bit more. But I would think you'd probably have less pre-snap motion shifts or just a lower rate of it, or maybe right at the average of what Sark usually does. I don't know if he'll get an increased rate of it because that may put more of a burden on the young quarterback than you need. Early down pass rate. I've talked about this with Quinn. Your early down pass rate versus UTSA was upwards of 70%. So Sark is thinking along the lines that I was. Maybe he's listening to the show, or maybe great minds think alike. Giving the offense to Quinn. It's Quinn's offense. Give it to him. And then the running game will complement what you do in the passing game. Lead with what your opponents fear, your passing game. They fear all your weapons you have in that wide receiver room. And he is. That's why the first 9 plays, I think, were all passes. And he didn't have a run play until the 10th play of the game. That was against UTSA. So imagine what he's going to dial up in some of the bigger games. But with Arch against UTSA, early down pass rate. So his pass rate dropped down to 40%. So he was running the football more with Arch in there. And I wonder, if you're going to have that balance when Arch is in there, or if there's still going to be a team that leans on the pass to set up the run. That's something to watch. I think you're probably going to have a little bit more balance than you will with Quinn. I mean, Quinn was approaching, like I said, 65, 70% early down pass rate, third-year starting quarterback in the system. Now you're going to have a first-time starter in Arch Manning. Maybe that's a little too much of a burden and maybe too much exposure for him early. Also, more targets to Ryan Wingo and Jonte Cook. I think both of those guys, those guys have, I think, a combined 13 targets, and 8 of those 13 are from Arch. 4 of the 6 targets to Jonte Cook are from Arch, and 4 of the 7 targets to Ryan Wingo are from Arch. Even Sark admitted they probably do have rapport because in practice they work together because Ryan Wingo and Jonte Cook are on the second group of wide receivers on that second team. Arch is the second team quarterback, so they work together in practice, already have rapport and chemistry, and that translates to the game. So you'll probably see a lot more targets for those guys. And another thing to look at is, speaking of targets, Isaiah Bond, 64% of his over 100 receiving yards versus UTSA were on throws behind the line of scrimmage. Look for the more of those wide receiver screens. You only have a couple of guys who can be yak daddies for you in, among the wide receivers. I don't think Golden's that guy. I don't necessarily think DeAndre Moore's that guy, but certain guys are better with the ball in their hands. Bond is really good just because he can hit the corner or you can go from 0 to 60 in, obviously a matter of seconds. And I think Silas Bowden has some of that ability too. And that can be an extension of the running game, essentially a long handoff. You may need that with your running back injuries that are mounting up. And your play action pass, RPO, and screen rate, which are conceptual signatures baked into Sark's offense, will probably remain around the same, 35% straight drop back. And you probably won't want to put more on a young quarterback than that. But that did remain consistent from Quinn to Arch. All right, there you go. That's what the offense may look like, some of the subtle changes with Arch as the starter as opposed to Quinn. We come back, we'll get into what the facts, what the stats right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Davis coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get into some what the facts, what the stats. Got into some of these betting stats yesterday. How about this one? NFL underdogs of 5.5 points. 5.5 points or more. So underdogs of 5.5 points or more. So we getting back some of those big dogs, right? Anything that's getting into 2 scores in the NFL, big dogs. 9-1 against the spread this season with 5 outright wins. Teams who are 5.5 point dogs or more. Early on, man, you can get Vegas. Early on. They'll figure this thing out in about a week or so. Trust me, Vegas. That's why they build the big casinos and hotels. They'll figure it out. But right now, Vegas is a little off. And why wouldn't they be? We just talked about the undefeated teams in the NFC. Minnesota with Sam Darnold. The New Orleans Saints with Derek Carr. Seattle with a new head coach and Geno Smith at quarterback in Tampa Bay with Baker Mayfield. With losing Canales, and everybody thought, oh, Baker might have a regression. I just don't think Vegas, even with all their models, could have predicted how the NFL season has started with a lot of these teams. And so they're catching up. How about this one? This is just looking at teams, college football teams that are 0-3 against the spread. All of Texas' opponents that they played so far are on this list. Colorado State's on this list. UTSA is on this list, and Michigan is on this list of college football teams that are 0-3 against the spread. The Longhorns, how about this, baby? 3-0 against the spread. Here are the teams that are 3-0 against the spread. Arizona State, Baylor, Boston College, BYU, Eastern Michigan, Memphis, Nebraska, Ole Miss, Pitt, San Jose State, South Florida, UCF, UNLV, shout out to UNLV, Tennessee, Texas, Washington State. Those are the only teams that are 3-0 against the spread. Good teams win, great teams cover. Damn right.
I've got a fun one for you for Saturday's football action in college football.
Let's do it.
The Utah-Oklahoma State game may feature 2 of the oldest quarterbacks, 2 seventh-year seniors playing in the Utah-Oklahoma State game. Cam Rising and Alan Bowman are both 7th-year seniors. So the combined starting age of the quarterbacks in that game is 49.
That's crazy.
The combined age of starting quarterbacks in the Colts-Bears game on Sunday, 44.
That's a good one. That is a great stat. Damn, 7 years. Honestly, I'm kind of glad those COVID classes will be done. Come on, man. 7 years in college football, just hanging out. Trust me, I wish I could have done it. I'm jealous, is what it is more than anything. I think I'm just jealous to just be playing college football for 7 years.
7 years, and you get the NIL now.
And you get the NIL now, and they probably got their masters already or something. You know what I mean? Been there 7 years, they don't tell them where they are in their degree in their higher education. It's fantastic. Good for them. I'm just jealous. How about this one? Through 2 NFL weeks, you've had 5 quarterbacks throw for 300 plus yards and 4 teams with 300 plus net pass yards. None have covered the spread. The first time since 1980, no team with 300 plus pass yards has covered in the first 2 weeks of the season. Let that sink in. The league is changing. Told y'all it's changing. The quarterback run game, teams are running now. They're working smarter, not harder. It's just weird kind of what's going on. And I don't think the NFL likes it. I think the NFL wants some throwing the football, quarterbacks, high-flying offenses, handing off the football and checking, being a bunch of check down Charlies is not really what the NFL wants. All right, there you go. That's what the facts or what the stats for you. We come back, we'll get into a couple of topics. We'll talk about the Texans and their upcoming opponent, the Minnesota Vikings. We'll talk about the Cowboys, their upcoming opponent, the Baltimore Ravens. We'll get into some Longhorn football conversation as well. We'll go behind the burnt orange curtain. There was some audio we didn't get to yesterday from Steve Sarkisian. We'll get to. We'll give some props to a lot of the standout performers for the Longhorns so far this season. Pro Football Focus gave some recognition to a lot of Longhorns. We'll do the same. All that and more right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Davis coming back on the Horn. Welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a One Artist Wednesday edition of the Rodcast. That's when my co-host, the Idillionaire Patrick Davis, he goes deep down the rabbit hole into the catalog of one specific artist, group, or band. And today, that artist is Now Rogers, writer, producer, kind of a Renaissance man. And all the songs that Patrick is playing today, he had some hand in either writing, producing, or
performing.
Correct?
Yes.
Performing, yeah. And he was what instrument did he play?
So he plays guitar in a lot of these, but he also could play bass and keys and a lot of other things. But he plays guitar. So like on this one, you can hear there's a little slapback guitar in there. And the story is, which producers tend to have more grandiose stories about a lot of these things. But the story is they were recording it, and when they were doing the original guitar part, they were like, it's just not like thick enough. And you know what? Put a little like echo on it, a little reverb on it. And when he turned on the echo and the reverb, it was all the way up. And it was way too much. And he did it. And then he was like, oh, let me turn that down. They're like, no. That was it. That's the sound we want. It's just like it echoes over and over and over again. It's just a really wide sound. But that's but that little guitar part there is Now Rogers.
I like that. There you go. Learning something new. That's what that's what it's all about on any of our musically themed days of the week, but especially on a One Artist Wednesday. So we appreciate Patrick there. We also appreciate Patrick coming up with the topic for the big fat poll of the day. For those who have not participated, go check it out. It is already posted on the Horns X account at the Horn ATX. Patrick, what is the topic for the big fat poll of the day?
Big fat poll of the day today. Which 2-0 team in the NFC has the best chance to make it to the Super Bowl? There's 4 teams in the NFC that are 2-0. The Vikings, the Saints, the Buccaneers, and the Seahawks. Right now, Saints running away with it. 63% of people say that Saints are going to be winning it. Buccaneers second with 20%. Vikings third with 13%. And no love for the Seahawks. 3% for the Seahawks.
Man, the Vikings, the Saints have scored 91 points in the first 2 games of the season. The most points scored in the first 2 games of the season since 1970 with 93 by the 2009 Saints. And of course, those Saints went on to win the Super Bowl. The 1971 Cowboys also scored 91 points. They also went on to win the Super Bowl. So Saints are in good company. Last 2 teams have scored 91 points or more in the first 2 games of the season since 1970 and Super Bowl era won the Super Bowl. And Saints are right there. Yeah. Crazy. I wouldn't have.
If the Saints win the Super Bowl, then that is the craziest turnaround in
the history. Yeah, it might be. Yeah, it would, because they'd have to beat Kansas City to do it.
But they didn't really add
unless somebody else beats Kansas City.
The thing was, they didn't really add it. It wasn't like, oh, they got this guy and it was just like, no, they changed the coach. They changed the offensive coordinator.
Schemes. Yeah.
Like not even a head coach. They changed the offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
And they became that much better.
And he'll get somebody might be trying to give him a head coach job sooner or later anyway. If this continues.
Yeah.
It's a very small sample size, but I'm picking the Saints in that. But that you can make the case there have been a lot of remarkable stories, and those teams I think are part of that storyline, and a lot of it is the quarterback play. Baker Mayfield, Geno Smith, Sam Darnold, and of course Derek Carr playing some of the best football we've ever seen him play. And I don't know why Derek Carr's best season seemed to coincide with election season. I don't know what that's about. The facts are the facts. It actually does coincide with the last 3 election cycles. When we're having a presidential election in this country, Derek Carr plays his best football. I don't know what that means about his political slant or lean or beliefs or ideology. I have no idea. And I couldn't even find anything that gave you that implied he was leaning one way or the other. So I don't even know what he is. Or if he is, he may be independent, may not be neither.
No, and he may just hate politics altogether and shut it all down. And that's why because the rest of the year other years he's like, oh no, I'm on social media.
He's on social media. Yes.
She gets off of social media, gets away from it all.
Yeah, that could be it too. Because you do that. You're like, I
stay away from a lot of it
on social media. Yeah. Especially during election season. So that could be it too. We don't know the reason. Somebody needs to ask him. Somebody had, because this is out there, because I got it. I think somebody on TikTok threw it out there as a conversation starter. I was like, interesting. Did some research, and turns out they're right. He had his they were 12, I believe, as a starter for him in 2016. They won 12 games. in 2016 during that election year. That was a wild one, as we all know. And he had a really good season. He had almost 4,000 passing yards, 28 touchdowns, his fewest interceptions in his career, lowest interception total. He had a 500 passing yard game with 4 touchdowns and 0 interceptions on the road that season. They were great. And then in 2020, another election, and he has over 4,100 yards passing, his highest passer rating of his career, and 27 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Balling. I don't know. And then now, he's leading the NFL in passer rating, QBR, and in Pro Football Focus passing grade as the rated starting quarterback with the lowest check down percentage in the NFL. And they have the highest, largest point differential in the league too. And he's playing the best football we've ever seen him play. And we're about to embark on another wild election in this country. Don't know what it's about. Explain it, Derek Carr. Explain yourself. Explain yourself, sir.
Just
Seriously,
keep playing good football.
Yeah, I'm glad he's playing great.
After the season, you can explain it, but don't worry about it right now.
I guess so. Yeah, if you don't want to bring it up if you're a Saints fan, but I do want to know. I gotta go check and see what happens after the election those years and see if some of the mojo is gone. But anyway, that's the topic for the Big Fat Poll today. Go check it out. That is posted at the Horn ATX. We'll get you the Horn headlines here in just a second, and we'll come back and we'll talk the Texans because I love this week of matchups for Texans and for the Cowboys. I think they are perfect for both of them, and I'll explain that on the other side. And the Texans, that defense, it right now is leading the NFL in one of my favorite categories. And if it continues to lead the NFL in this category, they got a really good chance to, when it's all said and done, to at least challenge Kansas City. I don't know if they can beat them. Challenge Kansas City for the best team in the AFC. We'll talk about that too on the other side. But first, let's get updated. Let's get educated. Let's get informed with all the top stories of the day with Patrick Davis and the Horn headlines.
All right, your Horn headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. In the MLB, the Astros even their series with the Padres last night with a 4-3 win in extra innings. Hunter Brown pitched 6 innings, giving up 2 runs, but in the top of the 9th with 2 outs, Jose Altuve fouled a ball off his toe on a call the umpires missed, and Altuve was ejected after taking off his shoe and sock to argue the call. Altuve's replacement, Greg Kessinger, scored the go-ahead run from second and makes the final out in the field with a great play. Tonight, Framber Valdez gets to start facing off against Dylan Cease. And the Rangers found their stride at the plate, winning game 1 of their series with the Blue Jays 13-8. Nathan Eovaldi had a poor start, allowing 7 runs in just 4 2/3 innings. However, the Bats capitalized on opportunities and had 13 runs on 13 hits. Cody Bradford takes the mound tonight for the Rangers. And in the NFL, the Dolphins have placed Tua Tagovailoa on IR after suffering a concussion in Week 2. He will now miss at least 4 games. In a corresponding move, the Dolphins added former Pro Bowl quarterback Tyler Huntley to the roster. And the Chiefs signed Kareem Hunt to their practice squad looking for help at running back after Isaiah Pacheco suffered a broken fibula last week. Hunt was drafted by the Chiefs in the 3rd round of the 2017, but was cut after the 2018 season following an incident at a hotel. And that is your Horn headlines.
All right, let's talk about we'll get into the Cowboys matchup with the Baltimore Ravens here in just a second, but let's get into this Texans matchup versus the Vikings. I think that's going to be a really cool matchup because what the Vikings just did versus San Francisco. Now, San Fran had Debo out and Christian McCaffrey out.
I mean,
so
Debo played in that game. He got hurt in that game.
Did he play?
Yeah, I believe he had 110 yards. So I think he played pretty decently in that game.
Okay. Well, I know he's hurt now.
McCaffrey was out. So McCaffrey was still out. Yes.
McCaffrey was out. And I know Debo's now dealing with the injury. But yeah, so Debo actually did show. I had 8 for 110. But so the 49ers in that game, they lost 23-17 to the Minnesota Vikings. Their offense actually were able to move the football. I mean, they had almost 300 yards passing as a team. They had over 100 yards rushing as a team. It was on critical downs and on really kind of crucial downs, money downs specifically, is where the Minnesota Vikings really threw the 49ers into a bit of a tailspin. They seemed discombobulated. He did a really good job of coming up with creative counters and changeups, sometimes extreme counters and changeups to be able to throw the 49ers off and outmaneuver. All right, outmaneuver Kyle Shanahan and outmaneuver Brock Purdy on those downs. They were just 2 of 10 on third downs versus Minnesota, and they were 1 of 3 on fourth downs, essentially. So you got 2 turnover on downs. They did force 2 turnovers, got a pick and a forced fumble, and they sacked Brock Purdy. I believe it was 6 times overall. So they were able to make a lot of plays, a lot of splash plays, havoc plays. We talk about that all the time, right? Havoc plays by the defense, and they were able to stop the 49ers on critical downs. That is where a lot of people are giving Brian Flores a ton of credit as the defensive coordinator of the Minnesota Vikings for, being able to outwit Kyle Shanahan, because, that's not easy to do. No matter what even with some injuries to what the 49ers have, that's not an easy thing to do. And I saw on NFL Live, Dan Orlovsky was talking about this matchup, and him, obviously as an analyst, he broke down the film, and in his opinion, he thinks Brian Flores basically outcoached Kyle Shanahan this past weekend.
How many times in your guys' life do you think Kyle Shanahan has been outcoached?
Oh, like
Not many.
3 or 4.
He was definitely
The last
outcoached.
time they played Brian Flores last year.
I think Kyle was outcoached yesterday by both Flores and Kevin O'Connell. I think Kevin O'Connell has absolutely gotten himself into the conversation for as good a breadcrumb layer as there is in the NFL. Like, I get into this formation, I get into this look, and I want to see what you do with it defensively, because I have that second or third or fourth option to go off of it. Really, both of the touchdown passes from Sam Darnold yesterday were plays that he ran beforehand.
Built up,
that he was like, okay, what are you in? How did you align to it? And this is what I can go to. I think that you can make the case. The Vikings are as offensive and defensively well coached as anybody in the NFL.
And if you are and I don't necessarily agreeing that he outcoached Shanahan, they won the game, but he did. I think he was able to outmaneuver them, and he had a great changeup for third down and fourth downs. It seems like that's the part where there was a clear winner in that chess match between Shanahan and Brian Flores. Is that Brian Flores did a great job holding them to 3 of 13 basically on money downs. Like I said, they still got almost 400 total yards in the game, and they made some plays in the passing game. I believe Brock Purdy had over 300 yards passing, and they ended up having a 100-yard rush or two. So he didn't shut it down. I don't think he was concerned with shutting it down, though. Trying to, diagnose and decipher that Shanahan offense can be a lot. It's like that old saying about eating an elephant, right? How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And it seems like basically Brian Flores chose his spots where he wanted to step up and where he wanted to introduce those change ups and those counters. And apparently he has a wide spectrum that you have to, as an offensive mind like Shanahan or a quarterback, that you have to try to solve, right? It's not just a guy who's aggressive with the zero blitz, but he'll drop 8 on you. You got man coverage, you got man zone concepts. Apparently, there's a lot of variety in his concepts, to the point where Brock Purdy, after the game, in the when he's giving the guys handshakes, and he's talking about talking to the other guys in the post game, the opposing team, he meets up with Brian Flores in the post game, and he tells them, basically that scheme was awesome. Like that's a great scheme, and gives them a compliment about how and this is a guy that studied it, and probably was a little surprised by how diverse that scheme was. We have sound from Devin McCourty, who used to play under Brian Flores and now is an analyst, and even he talked about how impressive Brian Flores was being able to hold that Shanahan offense on critical money downs to being 2 of 10 on third downs.
Impressed you specifically scheme-wise what they did to Purdy yesterday?
I think it's the same thing. It's the switch up. It's not allowing quarterbacks to get comfortable. It's saying, hey, we're going to send, and that's what Flo does more than anybody. We're going to send max blitz. We're going to send 6 guys at you. And then maybe 2 third downs later, you're getting ready. They're coming for you. Then he sends max coverage. He only sends 3 guys, and he drops a bunch of guys. So he does that better than anybody. It's hard to game plan for. And once you get in the game, sometimes it's a little too late of once you kind of figure it out. And, credit to him because it's not just Purdy. It's also confusing Kyle Shanahan, who has proven to be one of the best offensive minds in the game.
I believe the quote from Purdy was "Scheme is crazy." So for a young CJ Stroud, this is going to be a nice litmus test for him because he gets to go up against a true kind of chess master on the defensive side, Brian Flores, who has just shown he has a somewhat successful blueprint versus that Shanahan scheme, which is what Bobby Slowick and D'Amico Ryans have modeled the Texans after. And I imagine they're going to see some of the same things that Brian Flores introduced versus the 49ers. Bobby Slowick is going to see it, and CJ Stroud's going to see it. And so I can't wait to see how CJ Stroud is, how he processes and how he deciphers that Brian Flores scheme, because Brian Flores is going to have something for him. And this is for young quarterbacks. This is, ultimately what you want to see them. This is the challenges you want to see them face and overcome. A defensive coordinator like Brian Flores, who has a wide range of schemes he's going to throw at him. He's not just known for a certain niche or a certain, coverage that he specializes in. Brian Flores is known as being an aggressive, almost aggressive madman as a defensive coordinator, and being to the point where he's just very unpredictable because of the spectrum and the range of stuff he's going to throw at you. So that's a good test for the Texans. And like I said, on third down specifically, the Texans have a tendency to get into third and long situations. They did last season, and they were bailed out by CJ Stroud, who had more completions and conversions on 3rd and 10+ yards to go than any quarterback in the league. He was fantastic, and he's still good on 3rd and long situations. We've talked about that even on the show in the first 2 weeks, but that may be something you want to actively avoid versus Brian Flores and in Minnesota Vikings defense, because if Shano's got a tough time on 3rd down versus them, I imagine CJ Stroud and Bobby Slowick could end up having similar issues on money downs versus a Brian Flores defense. So that's the lesson to learn for the Texans. Also for the Texans, this is something I think if you're a Texans fan, you got to be excited about. I pay attention to what they call havoc rates. A havoc rate is any positive play by the defense, basically, is a havoc play. And I've talked about this with the Longhorns before. I've talked about this with NFL, the Cowboys, because of that Dan Quinn defense, just being a havoc-minded defense. And this particular havoc rate is tracking forced fumbles, interceptions, pressures, tackles for a loss or no gain, that includes sacks and PBUs. So basically any good play by the defense. They don't include fumble recoveries in this one, which was kind of weird. I think some people think fumble recoveries are more luck than anything else. Than forcing the fumble is actually, that is the havoc play by the defense. But either way, based on this metric, the Houston Texans are leading the NFL in havoc rate on defense, 56%. That's the good news. That's really good news. That means you got a lot of guys on your defense that just are making splash plays on the D line, linebackers, DBs making a lot of splash plays. So leading the NFL in havoc rate, that's the good news. The bad news, which always is accompanies some good news, you got to have it there. Minnesota is second. Minnesota is at 54% havoc rate. So good news is you're leading the NFL in havoc rate. Bad news is your next opponent is second in havoc rate. So you got to get buttoned up. And the Texans O-line, as we've talked about, has shown some inconsistency early. And CJ Stroud's probably been under more pressure than we would have liked. He was sacked 4 times in that game versus the Colts early on. So that's a concern. They got to take care of the football, and they got to stay ahead of the chains. Stay ahead of the chains and take care of the football, because this team, they're havoc-minded, so they go after the football a lot. And on third downs, Brian Flores is brilliant, or at least he was last week against the 49ers on 3rd and 4th down on those money downs. And if I had to pick something else, I'd say pass protection. Because Brian Flores, he can bring the heat too. And if you're good in havoc rate, that means you got some guys that can just naturally rush the passer or are pretty good at it. Cowboys aren't low on this. Cowboys are 6th in havoc rate at 49%. They get a lot of pressures. If you include pressures and havoc rates, they do get a lot of pressures. Havoc rate ain't got nothing. It would have helped to get some tackles for a loss against the Saints and some plays in the backfield. But there's talent on that Cowboys defense. Speaking of the Cowboys, their hands will be full defensively. The reason I like their matchup is because, number one, they're going up against a desperate Ravens team, 0-2. If you start the season 0-2, you're already desperate because your chance of making the playoffs are already very slim. 0-2 teams since 2015, fewer than 11% of NFL teams have made the playoffs starting 0-2. If you want to go all the way back since the NFL expanded, basically going back to 1990, only 32 of 279 teams, that's a little under 12%, 11.5%, started 0-2, but still made the playoffs. And only 3 of them went on to win the Super Bowl. If you go look at 0-2, man, since the NFL expanded to 7 playoff teams in 2020, so go to your most recent example and sample size, just 2 of 32 teams, a little over 6%, started the season 0-2 and went on to make the postseason. It already looks bleak for Baltimore. So a lot of guys, they're vets, so they know this. They're going to come out as playing as desperate as any team can. And you're going to get the best. I think the Cowboys are going to get the best shot of Baltimore. There is no doubt in my mind. So you got that working against you. Well, I think why it's a good matchup for the Cowboys. It'll test their grit and fortitude as a team. And then Lamar Jackson versus the NFC. He's 20-1 since 2018 versus the NFC. Dude, it's just hard to simulate that in practice. Now they got Trey Lance, but Trey Lance ain't Lamar Jackson. It's hard to simulate that kind of dynamic explosivity at the quarterback position. And then on top of that, you don't see him a lot. So you don't necessarily have a game plan for Lamar Jackson. You don't see him in the NFC a lot. You don't see him in that ecosystem. He's a foreign body in that ecosystem. And essentially you've introduced an apex predator into an ecosystem that is ill prepared for him. The NFC is not prepared for Lamar Jackson. The AFC is better prepared for him, that ecosystem. So he fits right into that ecosystem with a lot of other dynamic quarterbacks like a Patrick Mahomes and a Josh Allen. You put him in the NFC, and they're like, we don't see anything like him over here. There's nothing like him over here. There's nothing like Dak Prescott ain't like that. Jordan Love ain't like that. Like they don't really have that in the NFC, right? What's the Kyler Murray?
Kyler would say,
some of that
probably.
And he's giving them hell, ain't he? Look at what Kyler Murray's doing right now. He's giving them hell. They don't see it. They don't see a lot of it. I don't know why that feels like that's more of an AFC thing with it. I'm sure there's
just better quarterbacks. There's better quarterbacks in the AFC too.
Period. Yeah. Because Jalen Hurts he hit that for a while, but now Jalen Hurts is kind of a turnover machine, right? He's a high risk, high reward.
Yeah. And he was never super speed.
No, yeah, right. It's more power with the push and yeah.
I mean, Jaden Daniels may fall into that now.
He could be one of those guys now.
Daniel Jones was just a speed machine. We know Daniel Jones was.
He was. He could scramble though. I don't want to hate on him, but there's a Lamar Jackson is a different kind of twitchy. He's a different kind of twitchy and a different kind of speed. And I just think in NFC, like I said, that ecosystem, they don't see him a lot, so they're like, "What the hell is that?"
No, in reality, Kyler was the only guy before a couple rookies now, and Jaden and Caleb Williams that maybe could do it, but basically it's Kyler Murray.
So it's just when Lamar goes over there, man, NFC she said they're just ill prepared, unfamiliar with that kind of dynamic ability at quarterback, and it just takes them a while. Sean McVay's talked about. He said it took us a while. It just takes you like a half. He said, but by that half, you better hope you're not out of the game, or hope that you haven't gotten somebody hurt or whatever it may be. But he said it does take your team a while to get used to the speed and the explosivity of that dude. So that's something. And also, you talking about arguably the best dual threat rushing quarterback of all time, and you got a problem stopping the run. And if they want to, now they don't do it right now because Todd Monken is the offensive coordinator. They're trying to spread things out, going more with a spread air raid ish philosophy, but they have it in their DNA because Derrick Henry comes from a power running team and a power running identity with Tennessee, and because Lamar Jackson won his first MVP with a power run game and a power run game identity, they could go power run game, run downhill on you. Now they wouldn't probably be under center; they'd probably go pistol and put Derrick Henry behind him, but still same concept. And if they thought your deficiency on defense against the run, and they thought it was that much of a weakness that they would shift their identity just to specifically target and exploit your weakness, they can do it. And they got Derrick Henry to do it, and I'm sure they got some tight ends. They can go 12 personnel and decide to just line up and run the rock at the Cowboys and force them to have to account for the +1 in the in the passing game or in the run game too with Lamar Jackson. I do think you'll get more DeMarvin Overshown. I think he only got 18 snaps versus the Saints because they were truly going downhill with 2-back sets and power sets. I think Ravens will spread you out more, and they'll need someone to account for Lamar Jackson as a spy at times, like they did Deshaun Watson. So I do think you'll see more of DeMarvin Overshown in his packages. So that's good.
Yeah, and I'll say it's another big game for Micah Parsons to see, can you play against a quarterback like Lamar Jackson, who is mobile and can get away from you, and does your pass rush get home? Are you able to get home to him? And if you need to help stop the run, can you?
Yep, can you? Is it even possible for you to do
Or
it?
I should say, will you? We know he's good enough. We know he has the talent to do it.
Yeah, soon we're going to question that, though, if he doesn't step it up. We're like,
I mean,
hey,
because
man,
right now you could say it's a scheme. It's what he's supposed to be doing as pass rushing and everything else. But it is at a certain point, then you have to start asking questions.
I agree. It's like, come on, Micah. Where's that playmaking ability against the run? And I think it's going to be tested this season more and more. So if he wants to change, they always say if you don't like what people are saying, change the conversation. He'll have plenty of opportunity to change the conversation this season. As a matter of fact, we have Micah sound. We'll play that later. We'll get into that. We have some Micah Parsons sound from his podcast talking about that performance versus the Saints. And I think he's taking ownership of it, but he's saying more it's a team thing and everybody needs to step up. All right, let's talk Longhorns on the other side. We'll get to some Texas football conversation. Isaiah Bond getting love from Real Analytics as the fastest college football player for week 3 in college football. We'll get into that. Also, Pro Football Focus giving some recognition to several Longhorns for some of the young guys, but for their performance so far this college football season. So we'll get into some of those accolades and give some props to the Texas defense. I don't know if we're giving enough props to that secondary. I'll give you some stats about how good they've been in coverage so far. They hadn't been tested a lot, but I don't know if anybody's been better so far in coverage. We'll dive into all of those topics and more right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis and lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get to some Texas football conversation. I want to talk about, first of all, a lot of different topics, but I want to talk about Isaiah Bond getting some love. Real Analytics Weekly, they do their fastest players of the week ranking. So they do GPS tracking. I believe it's AI assisted GPS tracking that they use to determine the fastest ball carriers in college football weekly. And this week, number one was Isaiah Bond. His 50-yard touchdown. He got up to 22.1 miles per hour on that 50-yard touchdown run. And I mean, he's a guy that's in, I think his college time, his high school time was 10.48, and his 200-meter time was 21 flat. He won the Georgia State 6A, Georgia State 100 meters and 200-meter championship in high school. And I believe his 10.48 that number was from his junior year as one of his best. So he's legit. I mean, he can run. He's got world-class speed. And Sark's always great about identifying football players who also have world-class speed as opposed to, world-class speedsters who happen to play football, which is a difference, right? World-class, guys who have world-class speed and also play football, but he finds really good football players who happen to have world-class speed. And I think Isaiah Bond also might fall into that category. And not a coincidence that, I think 22 miles per hour, this guy may be threatening to run a 4.2 or something at the combine or whenever he tests as well. Remember, Xavier Worthy last year, Real Analytics clocked him as the fastest player in college football, and they had him at 22.7 miles per hour. They actually had Jaden Blue last year as the fastest running back, and he was at 22.3 miles per hour. Now you got Isaiah Bond hitting 22.1 miles per hour. Don't forget, they also had Arch Manning hitting 20.7, which they got to believe now because I've seen it with my own eyes, him pull away from UTSA defenders. Speaking of that, Isaiah Bond, 22.1 miles per hour, that number would be, and I say would be, it's the highest speed miles per hour reached by a ball carrier at the college level this year. I went back and looked at the rest of the ball carriers so far this year, and at least the first 3 weeks of the season, and none of them are faster than 22.1. You had Nick Singleton from Penn State. He had a 40-yard touchdown run. He got up to 21.8 miles per hour. And you had Clemson's Bryant Westcoat Jr., who had a 76-yard run. The wide receiver reached up to 21.9 miles per hour. But that, of course, does not exceed the 22.1 miles per hour that Isaiah Bond got on his 50-yard touchdown run. And if you look at the NFL's next-gen stats, obviously different entity, but they track it as well. They have the fastest ball carrier through 2 weeks of the NFL season as Nico Collins at 21.8 miles per hour. That's crazy. Nico's freaky right now, man. And how big is that dude? Ain't like 6'4"? And already in the fastest ball carrier in the league through the first 2 weeks. On his 55-yard touchdown run, they said he hit 21.8 miles per hour. Then there's Jerome Ford at 21.29 miles per hour. There's Brandon Echols at 21.27, and then Alec Pierce, 60-yard TD reception. He got up to 21.2 miles per hour. So the fastest ball carrier in football at the college or the pro level so far has been Isaiah Bond. That, in short, basically. Everybody's got to look at the GPS analytics of it. So just say Sark's got a type. Xavier Worthy, fastest man in history of the NFL Combine last year. Before that, it was also a Sark receiver in John Ross who had the record for the fastest human at the NFL Combine. And if I'm not mistaken, A.D. Mitchell was also one of the fastest players at the Combine. So he had two of the fastest at the Combine with A.D. Mitchell. So, yeah, Sark's got a type. Speaking of A.D. Mitchell, I want to throw this out there, too. Shout out to A.D. Mitchell. Remember, in week 1, we were keeping up with ASS. Yes, average separation score. I love this stat. I'm going to be keeping up with it every week. Basically, it's breaking down analytically how often your receivers win and what the average separation is from a DB, and who has the highest average separation on route to route. And in week 1, it was AD Mitchell. AD Mitchell had the highest ASS in week 1 at 0.667. Mike Evans was second. Jamison Williams was third. George Pickens was fourth. And Nico Collins, shout out to Nico Collins, he was fifth among the ASS leaders in week 1. The win rate, if you look at win rate, AD Mitchell had the highest win rate among receivers in week 1. Nico Collins was second, and CeeDee Lamb was actually third. So fast forward ahead to this week, and the average separation score, and you got to give a shout out to my man AD Mitchell, because once again, AD Mitchell is one of the leaders. If you can look at rookie separation win rates, he is second in win rate among rookies based on these metrics. So AD Mitchell, I say, if he ever gets him a quarterback that can throw him the football, AD Mitchell might be a fantasy football star if he could ever, get a quarterback that can consistently throw him the football. But right now, AD Mitchell doing a great job of consistently standing out. If you look at ASS, average separation score. So in the fantasy football world, they love AD Mitchell. I think he's a star because consistently he's open. I just don't know if AR-15 Anthony Richardson can get him the football on the simple throws or even on the deep throws. It'd be nice if they can link up on some of those deep throws because he was open a lot on some of those deep shots. But they couldn't hit him. But average separation, that was among the rookies. But average separation score, Mike Evans, he's number 1 this week. George Pickens is number 2. Chris Olave is number 3. And AD Mitchell overall is number 4. So number 2 among the rookies, the average separation score, but they got him at number 4 here overall that I see, which I think is pretty damn good. So win rate among the rookies, he was they looked at win rate overall. They have number 2. That was the earlier stat, but among all of the receivers, he's 4th in average separation score. So give it up for my man AD Mitchell. Looking good. All right. Let's talk about some of the Longhorns who are getting some love. Pro Football Focus put out their weekly awards or weekly recognition awards for the SEC and for freshmen. They do freshmen, they do SEC, they do position by position. So you look at the highest graded true freshman in week 3, Ryan Wingo is number 1. Highest graded true freshman in week 3 by Pro Football Focus at 89.4. If you look at highest graded wide receivers in week 3, Ryan Wingo 89.4 puts him at the 3rd highest graded receiver overall in week 3 in college football. So highest graded true freshman in week 3, 3rd highest graded wide receiver overall in week 3, and he made their week 3 SEC team of the week as a receiver here on the SEC team of the week. The guy's averaging 31 yards per touch. I've said it, at this point, you got to put him in the rotation as your 3rd, I would say your 3rd most, at least your 3rd most utilized and deployed receiver. I don't know about target share and route share. That's a different discussion. But at this point, I would accelerate his development, and he would be out there as much as any receiver not named Bond or Golden. I think Bond or Golden will probably be your top 2 guys. I think he's your 3rd best wide receiver right now as a true freshman. And by the end of the season, he could end up being your best. He's led you in receiving in 2 of your first 3 games. And he's only had 1 of his 8 touches not result in explosive play of at least 15 yards. Dude's got, like I said, upside that is through the roof. He could potentially be in the conversation and by the end of his career with the Roy Williams, the Jordan Shipleys, and the Xavier Worthies. You want to throw him in there too. He could be in that conversation, like the best receiver in the history of Texas football. He's got that kind of upside. I just throwing it out. Also, he'll be catching balls from a Manning, which will help in that conversation. And he'll be in the one of the only offenses that has led to a wide receiver winning the Heisman in a Sark offense. It's almost a perfect situation for him.
Yeah.
And his elite explosive.
I think it's worth noting too. In the game that he didn't lead you in receiving, he did have the longest play from scrimmage.
Yeah, it's true.
Because he had that 55-yard
That's a great
rush.
point.
So in the one he done, he still had the most explosive play of the game.
Like I said, I don't even. Yeah, you just got to play him more. You just got to play him more and just see where the chips fall. Because yeah, that's a great point. I didn't even realize that, but yeah, that 55-yard run, his only touch in the game, and against a good defense, Michigan's got NFL players on it. He makes them look a little silly too. So it ain't just against Colorado State and UTSA. That dude, play him more. And I think Sark will play him more, so I'm not even going to be critical of that. They're playing him more. He needs to play more. He needs to play earlier. And by the way, with Arch, he's one of Arch's favorite targets. So watch out for him this week, just going off because Arch loves Ryan Wingo. Why wouldn't he? So that's Ryan Wingo getting some love. And like I said, I'll give him some love too. I think him and Arch could be a Colt Jordan type, bromance. I don't know if they'll be that close, but I'm talking about in terms of their productivity on the field. It could be that damn good. Colin Simmons is another guy that's got to play more. I looked at his snaps, and shout out to my man at Nash Talks Texas who listed his snap count. 11 snaps in game 1, 21 snaps in game 2, 30 snaps in game 3. But here's the difference. He's making more plays the more snaps he plays. And when he played 11 snaps in game 1, he had 1 pressure and 1 snap. He played 21 snaps in game 2. He had 3 pressures, 1 sack, and 1 run stop. 30 snaps in game 3, 6 pressures, 1 sack, 2 run stops. Just play him more. It's just that simple. I like their expanded role they're using with him, but play that dude more because he's better the more he plays. He's a prodigy. It's like Bijan. When you get a prodigy like that, just play him more and they get better. Kelvin Banks was like that too. Play him more, they get better. Yeah, the coaching and all that helps, but you just play them more. They'll catch on quicker. That's why when you get a prodigy or you skip them ahead a couple of grades, they'll figure it out. That's why I skipped your head. They're smart. They're smarter than their peers. They'll figure it out. They're better than their peers. Same thing with Ryan Wingo. Same thing with Colin Simmons. You did it with Kelvin Banks. You did it with Xavier Worthy. When you find a prodigy, just throw him out. We're mad at Tom Herman because he didn't do it with Bijan. We're like, what are you doing? It's a prodigy. You don't see him? He's reading at a 10th grade level and he's in the 4th grade. What are you doing? Move him up a couple of grades. Why are you holding him back? And that's what I feel like when guys like Colin Simmons and Ryan Wingo ain't playing enough. Play those dudes. Just play them more and they're going to make more plays. So yeah, give Colin Simmons some props because right now he looks like he's got the capability to get 10 sacks. I'll be a double-digit sack guy this year. Like I don't know if he'll get it, but they play him more, he will. But he's got that capability, no question about it. Anthony Hill, got to give some props to him real quick. We haven't talked enough about how good Anthony Hill has been. How about this? Pro Football Focus has their highest graded Power 4 linebackers. They have him as the 5th highest graded Power 4 linebacker right now. It's pretty damn good. He led the team in tackles last game. Anthony Hill's been better than we've been giving him props for. We haven't been giving him enough love. A lot of guys deserve it because they're playing at such a high level. 2 other guys who deserve it, we don't give enough props to, are Jahdae Barron and Malik Muhammad. Essentially, those are your starting corners because Jalen Gilbo is your starting nickel. And those guys have allowed a total of 9 receptions on 19 targets for 50 yards. But they have, if you look at it, Jahdae Barron has 1 interception and 1 PBU, and Malik Muhammad has 3 PBUs. And what I always say, you need to make as many plays on the football as you give up. They've given up 9 receptions. They made 5 plays on the football, only giving up 50 total yards combined. Those corners are playing really well. They haven't been tested just yet. Colorado State was a little bit of a test, but right now they're passing it. The eye test and every other test you can think of. All right, we come back. We'll get into a little off the record on the other side right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get into a little off of the record here. All right, I know we are a little strapped for time here, so let's get right to it. Brett McMurphy tweets this out, and it's apparently ahead of Saturday's game at Ohio State. Marshall's Charles Huff. He's the head coach of Marshall. He had this message for apparently Ohio State players who may be thinking about hitting the transfer portal at one point. I guess he had a little message for him. And some people are saying this may get him in hot water, that this actually may be, some form of kind of him tampering or something that may violate NCAA rules. I think it was all in jest. Thought it was pretty funny. Here is Marshall's Charles Huff.
Would love to have some of those guys from Ohio State too. So if they want to transfer on down, we've got a Tudor's Biscuit NIL, all you can eat. So if any of those guys that run really, really fast at Ohio State, like Tudor's Biscuits, I promise you, all you can eat all day if you transfer here. So, but yeah.
It's pretty good. I don't even know what have you looked up at Tudor's? Is it Tudor's
I'm about to
Biscuits?
look it up.
It's got to be something wherever Marshall is. It's got to be something up there. Was that Virginia, West Virginia? Where's Marshall? Is it? Where's Marshall? I gotta go look it. I don't even think I know exactly if I'm sure where it is. But yeah,
I'm gonna guess Ohio.
Okay.
No, it is. It's West
All
Virginia,
right.
Huntington, West Virginia.
Is it West Virginia? Okay. Yeah, I don't. Like I said, I'm unfamiliar with that area of the country, so I don't know.
It is Tudor's Biscuit World.
Oh, it's a ton of them. Oh, they run stuff up there.
Breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Okay, there you go then. Oh, so biscuits for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They got dinner biscuits. Or it's just,
well, I mean, it's like biscuit with, like, you got a biscuit with your chicken, you get a biscuit with your steak, or your biscuit with your.
Oh, damn. Okay, must be some damn good biscuits then. All
I think it's more just home style cooking, and so biscuits are part of home style cooking. But I think that's what that's probably their most famous thing. How many locations these guys got? Oh, they got a ton of locations.
So having a Tudor's NIL, it is beneficial then up there. If I have an NIL deal with Tudor's Biscuits, I could eat all the damn time.
Yeah, they have a ton in like West Virginia and some in Ohio, and that they're in that.
That is great.
That Midwest region got plenty of there. If I ever go up there, we'll have to try out a Tudor's Biscuit World. I'm
sure Tudor's, if this is not an NCAA violation, so Tudor's Biscuits gotta love this. That's a nice shout out to go viral there, man. That's good. Think about it. I have no idea what the hell Tudor's Biscuits was, and literally we just had to Google it. We had to Google it.
I mean, they have to have close to 100 locations though.
Damn, they haven't expanded outside that area though, because they're killing it.
I mean, they don't want to get to. Oh, they got one in Alabama. They got one in it's Panama City. Sorry, Panama City, Florida.
Okay, and expanding a little bit. Basically, we get biscuits from our chicken places down here. Like that's our.
But I think this is more in a Cracker Barrel kind of thing.
Oh,
is what I'm thinking. I think it's a little bit more of a Cracker Barrel.
That's what I'm saying. Like that's what we don't have any like our biscuit places are like breakfast biscuit places. Like there's a place called Bird Biscuit where you get biscuits for breakfast. But not an all day thing. They're just known for their biscuits, but they do kind of comfort food, that kind of thing. So chicken fried steakums and stuff like that.
I'm gonna guess this is more of a Cracker Barrel type thing in that region.
I gotcha.
And they don't want to go down into Cracker Barrel region.
Oh yeah, you can't compete with Cracker Barrel. Then you got Waffle Houses and everything else. You can't compete with that down here. Now you stay in your area. You're right. Stay in your territory. You don't want to be going toe to toe with Cracker Barrel, man. That's tough to do. All right, let's get to the break here. Let's get to matter of fact, next segment we got my man Nick Shuley coming up for Setlist ATX. Got all about that. So we have that coming up next segment. We'll also get back to some NFL news, notes, and nuggets. We'll hear from the Cowboys superstar Micah Parsons about their performance, a sad one, the embarrassing performance they had versus the Saints. We'll also read you a quote from Jerry Jones about the running back position. He does not seem too concerned, where I think a lot of Cowboys fans are very concerned about the running back position. We'll dive into that. And we got Roger Rant on the other side. What is that offense for Steve Sarkisian going to look like with a new quarterback at the helm? How different does it look, and what are the changes, the tweaks, the adjustments from Quinn to Arch? We'll discuss it, and I'll give you my predictions about how the offense will look a little bit different with Arch Manning. All that and more right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Babers coming back on the Horn. Welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a One Artist Wednesday edition of the Rodcast. That's when my co-host Patrick Davis goes deep down the rabbit hole into the catalog of one specific artist, group, or band, and all the songs are based on that featured artist. And today, the featured artist, a little bit different. And Patrick going with Nile Rodgers, who is a writer, producer, connoisseur, if you will. And all these songs are either songs that he contributed on as a writer or a producer or helped in some creative collaborative effort. This is relatively new, too.
Yeah. No, he's still, I mean,
Right?
he's still performing and playing.
Wow.
And yeah, and we did this Daft Punk record.
Man, I didn't realize that. Yeah, this is relatively new. Man, he's been making music for a long time.
He has. And that's what I was like,
That's
if you go after
40.
the show today, you can go down, anybody can go look up how much Nile Rodgers has done and how many hit records he's been a part of. And just, it is a crazy number of records. The ones I'm playing, you can hear his guitar parts on, and like you can tell kind of.
Yeah, I can hear it. Now that you pointed him out, I can hear him now. Yeah, that's a good point. Now that you pointed him out, I actually can hear him. That's freaky.
And so it's a little bit more, you kind of like, oh, that's his signature. But Rod, I'll play you this one this may be your favorite. 'Cause it's not really a song, but it's something he worked on that maybe will give you even more respect for what Nile Rodgers is.
No way. That's not true. He's a Soul Glow guy?
He wrote the soundtrack for Coming to America.
Wow.
So he's not the one singing, but he wrote this.
That is amazing. I did not. That is fantastic.
To give you
that
even
is
more.
Wow.
And he'll joke and say that this is probably his greatest achievement is Soul Glow. But
it is honestly, it's the one that I knew the most. You know, which one I can sing from. You know what I mean? I can initially when you played it, I was like, "That's Soul Glow." What do you think? It took me like 2 seconds to recognize Soul Glow from Coming to America. That is That's a great factoid.
Yes.
That's my favorite all-time comedy. That's my favorite all-time comedy.
He did the soundtrack for that. He did. He was a composer for that. So, give you another thing of the world of Nile Rodgers about how good this guy is. Mind
blown, bro. You just blew my mind. You just blew my mind with that one. I thought I was appreciating Nile Rodgers, and now I realize, holy moly! I've been a fan of his my entire life. Didn't even know it.
Exactly.
Been a huge fan.
That's why I had to pull. I pull all the music. I'm like, well, I got to pull Soul Glow because I know how to get to Rod.
Whoa! The fact that you know that is also kind of freaky. Like,
I'll tell you. Go watch his Tiny Desk because you'll see a piece of it in there, and that's
they put the Soul Glow in there.
They put it in there a little bit to let you know. Because I was like, I was listening, and then that was the one where you're like, oh man.
Wow, my mind, I can't even get back to sports now. Really, my mind is just blown now. That dude did the Coming to America soundtrack. That's my all-time favorite. I recognize all the scores and music from. I've seen the movie probably. I'm not being 50 times, and I'm not exaggerating. That easily 50 times. I mean, we may be in the 70s or something like that. Talking about movie start to finish kind of thing. How often is there any? What's the most that watched movie that you've ever watched in terms of how many times you've seen it in your life, start to finish, not just catching it in the middle of it. I'm talking about watched it start to finish, and what would be your estimation about how many times you've seen that movie start to finish?
I don't know. First of all, I'll say, tell us on the text line 512-447-3776.
It's Coming to America for me. It's easy.
It's a comedy. I know it has to be a comedy, but I'm not sure because I'm trying to think because it'll be different points of life, and then you watch it like 20 times and then a 10-year or like 30 times in a 10-year span. Then maybe you don't watch it a ton, so you have to add in all the ones that you watch like once again. Yeah. I don't know.
I've watched. I know. I literally, because you're right about that, and it's actually one of those movies that has stood the test of time for me.
Yes.
It has transcended from my youth to my teenage years to my young adulthood. Now to one of my exes. Honestly, the beginning of the end of our relationship was because she had never seen Coming to America and wouldn't watch it.
And wouldn't watch it.
It would watch it. It wouldn't say it was it, but then she never prioritized watching. I was like, it's my favorite all-time comedy. You should to get to know me, to learn how my mind works. You should watch that movie. If I'm telling you, it's my all-time favorite comedy. She never wanted to watch it, never cared. I was like, you know what? I don't know. I grew suspicious. And then, of course, we end up breaking up. She's happy now. She's great. She's fantastic, actually. She's still good people. But it's still, no doubt, during the relationship, it did bother me. But getting to it, though, that's the movie for me that I've seen from start to finish. And I've seen it, I'm not joking, at least 50 times. Start to finish. Okay, so that's the question. We'll throw it out there to the text line, 512-447-3776. We also have the topic for the Big Fat Poll of the day before we get to Setlist ATX with my man Nick Shuley, which we'll do here momentarily. But first, Patrick, give the folks a topic for the Big Fat Poll of the day.
Big Fat Poll of the day today. Which 2-0 team in the NFC has the best chance to make it to the Super Bowl? Right now, the Saints leading the way with 60% of the vote. Buccaneers have 27%. Vikings at 11% and 3% for the Seahawks. No love for the Seahawks.
No love for the Seahawks. Do we believe that if Derek Carr is for real? That's the question. Do we believe Derek Carr is for real? Or do we believe this is a election season and this is election season Derek? Election season Derek Carr, because that's usually when we get the best of Derek Carr.
Hey,
we don't know.
Hey, if he keeps playing like this, Chris Olave is going to want to renegotiate halfway through the season.
Yes, true. No, you're right. It's a great point. Everybody, you need to, if you get on this bandwagon, and you need to cash in too, because you may not get to this Derek Carr next season. That goes for you too, Clint Kubiak, the new OC.
Yeah.
Get the hell out of there before you get non-election season Derek Carr. You don't want that guy. All right, let's get the hard headline first, and then we'll get to my man Nick Shuley because he's got stuff to do, and we appreciate his time. Let's get updated, educated, and informed with all the top stories of the day with Patrick Davis and the Horn Headlines.
All right, your Horn Headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. In the MLB, the Astros evened their series with the Padres last night with a 4-3 win in extra innings. Hunter Brown pitched 6 innings, giving up 2 runs, but in the top of the ninth with 2 outs, Jose Altuve fouled a ball off his toe on a call the umpire missed, and Altuve was ejected after taking his shoe and sock off to argue the call. Altuve's replacement, Gray Kessinger, scored the go-ahead run from second and makes the final out in the field with a great play. Framber Valdez gets a start facing off against Dylan Cease. The Rangers found their stride at the plate, winning Game 1 of their series with the Blue Jays, 13-8. Nathan Eovaldi had a poor start, allowing 7 runs in just 4 2/3 innings. However, the Bats capitalized on opportunities and had 13 runs on 13 hits. Cody Bradford takes the mound tonight for the Rangers. And in the NFL, the Dolphins have placed Tua Tagovailoa on the IR after suffering a concussion in Week 2. He will now miss at least 4 games. In a corresponding move, the Dolphins added former Pro Bowl quarterback Tyler Huntley to the roster. And the Chiefs signed Kareem Hunt to their practice squad, looking for help at running back after Isaiah Pacheco suffered a broken fibula last week. Hunt was drafted by the Chiefs as the 3rd round of 2017, but was cut after the 2018 season following an incident at a hotel. And that is your Horn Headlines.
All right, thank you, Patrick, for the Horn Headlines. We appreciate those. Let's get right to it. We appreciate my man Nick Shuley coming in on Wednesdays for Setlist ATX, where he's going to let you know where a lot of talented folks are coming into town and where you can go enjoy their talents. We bring on Nick Shuley. What's going on, Nick? How you doing, brother?
Man, I'm doing great. How you doing, Rod?
Doing good, man. One question before, I might have a couple of questions, but one specific question before we get started. What movie you've seen from start to finish the most in your life? Like, what's that movie for you? For me, it's Coming to America. It's not even close.
Man, that one's so easy. Half-Baked.
Oh,
Dave
good.
Chappelle, man. I've watched that so many times.
I like that one.
So many times.
That is a good one. That says a lot about you, too. It does,
Yeah.
right? No, it does.
In a lot of different ways. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It does. It says a lot of things. Oh, you watched that movie that many times? That is a great comedy, though. So, do we assume it's always a comedy when you ask somebody that question?
It's hard to watch it.
Who wants to watch a drama over and over again? Like, who wants to watch 12 Years a Slave more than one time?
Missoula, the coach of the Celtics, who said he watches The Town like 5 times a week.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, yeah, that's too intense to watch that much.
Seriously, he says he watches it like 5 to 6. He's like, I watch it all the time. We're like, how?
I can't watch Top Gun again because I don't want to see Goose die. Sorry, spoiler alert for everybody out there. Like, I don't want to see him die. I can't watch Bambi. I can't watch Lion King, man. I'm just like, I don't want to see, especially animals dying. I can't watch those again, man. I can't do it.
So any tragedy, you can't watch it multiple times.
No, I don't want to see it again.
No matter how good the movie is, if it's tragedy, you're like, I can't do it.
The whole time I'm like, oh, well, they're going to die, so this sucks. but I can't do it, man. I can't do it.
Yeah,
I don't
I'm
know.
guessing you could do an action
I
movie.
agree.
You probably do an action movie over and over.
Yes,
Yeah,
I got
that's
a guy action movie, like a
Yeah.
John Wick or something like
Yeah,
that.
John.
where it's just
Someone on
like,
the text
That's
line
fair.
says they've seen the 3 John Wick movies over 10 times.
That's cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, because
I'm-
those are
yep.
great. Yeah, except the dog. But anyways,
oh, you see,
I can't watch the first one, so spoiler
that is
alert.
true. I didn't even think about that. That's how the whole thing starts.
Yeah,
Sorry to be
exactly.
spoiling for
Yeah,
you
and
guys.
another one's got to go.
Yeah.
Shawshank Redemption is a drama, but it's been on TV. It's on TV almost every single day.
Yeah,
So you're like, you just see pieces. I don't think I ever sat through that whole
that's
movie,
fair.
but I've seen pieces of that movie 9 trillion times. So you flip through the chain, it's like, oh, it's Shawshank for like 20 minutes.
Yeah, that's a good point. You're right. I actually I can relate to that. I think I haven't watched the entire Shawshank in probably a decade and a half, maybe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I've seen
Yeah, it's
bits and
always
pieces
on.
of it. Yeah, it's always, and it's such a great movie though. It is, and there's tragedy in it, but no, it's got a really, really
Man,
optimistic ending. So
I think my second and third would probably be like Princess Bride or Goonies or one of those from back in the day.
feel goods.
Yeah.
yeah.
Like
Goonies is
coming
such
of
a
age,
feel-good
I
movie.
think it's part of when you see
Yeah.
it too, right? Like Half Baked was very high school for me, and those were very kind of middle school. Or
Have you
grade school.
seen that they're
I agree
making?
with that.
I think they're making a new Goonies
Oh no!
with like the original
No.
cast.
No,
I don't know if that was a joke or not, but I saw people posted about it the
What?
other day.
I'm not
Oh,
happy now.
don't
You've ruined my
do
day,
it.
Patrick.
Yeah,
No, they did-
We've
they
waited
did
this
that with my
long. We
movie.
don't need it.
we don't need it. It's like Coming to America too. Same thing.
Yeah.
Remember?
No one was asking.
Nobody was. Nobody wanted this. Why'd you do it? And I had to watch it because of my black card, and it's my favorite all-time comedy. So if I didn't watch it, they'll challenge my black card and everything. And I watched it, and I knew it was gonna be bad, and it was worse than I thought it was
But
gonna be. It
like
was
Beverly
terrible.
Hills Cop, I get those were I could watch like those are I like most of those like sequels, but like Coming to America didn't need it. We exhausted the plot.
oh, okay. we
Yeah,
can
I
get you.
agree.
It's been shut down now. So a week
Oh,
ago,
thank God.
there was all these reports that it was going to happen, and now certain people from the cast are like, no, that's not happening.
Good.
Because they probably the blowback from people like us on social media, like, oh hell no,
there
don't
was
do
a
that. That's terrible.
Kickstarter
Oh,
to not do it.
You don't want to see Corey Feldman in a movie right now.
Oh,
Like you know who's doing the soundtrack? It's all Corey Feldman.
Oh,
So only way he's signing on.
That's the only way he's signing on.
there's a
He gets to
music
do all
scene.
the scores.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no, we're good.
Oh,
We're good.
no.
America
Yeah, I
and the
don't-
world don't need that.
The reason that you can, it's just, and there's only a few of them that actually have worked. When you have a successful sequel to an all-time great comedy, this is my theory. No all-time great comedy knew it was going to be an all-time great comedy while they were making
That's
it. And it
fair.
all seemed stupid at the time you're making
Yeah.
it. Half Baked seemed dumb. 40-Year-Old Virgin seemed stupid at the time they're making it. Caddyshack, Coming to America, like, man, this seems crazy. We're having a lot of fun doing it. And when you go look at the outtakes of those great comedies, you realize how often they were just improvising.
Yeah.
And like half of it's just improv. They're just throwing out random stuff, and they're like, that actually was funnier than we put in the script. That's awesome. We should do that. And you can't replicate that the second time around. Just not gonna work.
I think
Anyway,
that's a
all right,
great
that's
point.
enough. Yeah, enough random pop culture conversation. Nick's got stuff to do. All right, Nick. Thank you for your time, brother. Let's get right to it. Setlist ATX. We always start on Wednesday, the hump day. Let the folks know what's going on with Setlist ATX today.
Yeah, we got a ton of concerts this week, so I'll blaze through these. So the electronic dance duo Sophie Tucker will be at Moody Amphitheater. And then a great soul kind of alt rock act, JP Cooper, will be with Sam Fisher over at the Parish. And then a big metal night tonight over at Germania Amphitheater out at Coda with Five Finger Death Punch, Marilyn Manson, and Slaughter out there. That's a big bill. And then Pleasure P, if you remember from Pretty Ricky fame, will be over at
Oh, yeah.
Antone's. Yeah, I know.
That's
That's some
crazy.
old school R&B pull right there.
Yeah.
And then indie pop rock and kind of big TikTok fame, Faye Webster will be at Moody Amphitheater on Thursday. And then the kings of the indie rock scene, Built to Spill, who are kind of legends in that world, they'll be over at Empire. Ray LaMontagne, who is the pride of Maine. I don't think there's a ton of artists who can say that. He will bring his soulful singer-songwriter sound to ACL Live. And then a big Austin favorite, Cilantro Boombox, will be over at Far Out Lounge. And then Friday, this weekend gets big. So huge dream pop group that my niece put me onto. That's what I will say that I know this band, even though they're playing the Moody Center, thanks to my niece. Cigarettes After Sex, which I did not know what to expect, but it is very kind of spacey, dreamy pop.
Okay.
It's interesting. I kind of like it.
Nice.
And then a really cool indie dance band, Chromeo, will be at ACL Live. And fun fact, Chromeo, the lead singer's brother, was A-Track, who was Kanye's DJ for years and one of the biggest DJs. There's a little unwanted trivia for everyone out there. And then Indonesian pop star Nikki will be at Moody Amphitheater, which I got to know her music as well. And then one of Austin's best hip-hop artists, Avi the Nomad, will be over at Parrish. And then a big-time trap and bass dance artist, R.L. Grime, will be at Emo's. And a really good singer-songwriter like Will Hogue will be at Antone's. And then my man, DJ Mel, who has been DJing in this town for years. I still think he is one of the best DJs. He DJs at a lot of the UT games at basketball and football. He is one of the most talented human beings and the man who I actually kind of learned how to DJ from way back in the day. So he will be doing his dance party. And he has the most diverse DJing. He can play 80s all the way to like hip hop to whatever. He's the man. So that'll be at 310 at ACL Live. Go check that out if you're looking for something to do on Friday night. And then a huge 90s country star, Mark Chestnut, will be out at the Hot Spot in Cedar Park. And then Saturday, a big-time R&B show at the Moody Amphitheater with Omar Apollo. And then a Japanese indie band, which I started to explore, Lamp, will be at Stubbs. And then big-time Americana group, the Avett Brothers, will be out at Whitewater. Pop-punk group that's kind of blowing up right now, Sueco, will be at Empire. And then a big-time group from Mexico that plays norteña music, Grupo Pesado, will be at ACL Live. And then Sunday, watch out. The Taylor Swift fans will be out in full force because the artist who opened for her, Gracie Abrams, will be at the Moody Amphitheater. And I will say this, she's the daughter of J.J. Abrams, Star Trek, Star Wars, whatever. So, wow. You're like, that's okay, crazy. here's a kid that's just making it because they're, they got a famous dad or whatever. She's actually really, really good. And it hurts me so bad to say that because I just want to hate on a lot of Taylor Swift stuff in that world. I actually think she's a very talented artist. I got to see her do a taping. So I say that. This is my confessional for the day. That's my TED Talk. So she'll be at Moody Amphitheater on Sunday. And then a really cool radio rock show, The Glass Animals, will be at Moody Center. And then I will say this, besides Tom Petty, favorite artist of all time will be at ACL Live. I likely will not be there. It's Andre 3000 from Outkast because he's doing his flute record. And I am not, it's just like I had the chance. I was standing by him at a concert and I chose not to meet him. And my buddy was like, I'm going to introduce you. I was like, please don't. I have no desire to meet him because I think he is the greatest of all time and it can only take him down. And I feel like if I go see the flute show, it might take him down a peg in my book. So I will be abstaining from that. But if you're out there, let me know how it is.
Oh man, I honestly, my brother, I don't know if it's an album or whatever, my brother listens to it. He claims it's like really relaxing and
I don't doubt it, but I don't want to see it live.
And like apparently he's like done some research about like brain waves and music
that's
and how
great.
to relax, that kind of stuff. So that's
because I kept saying, because I have friends that were posting it, but some of them are also the friends that I don't believe what they're saying all the time.
They're just trying to sound cool.
Yeah, they were like, no, man, he's doing this real. And I'm like, that's cool. I don't need it. It could be the greatest thing ever. I'm probably never going to really, because I've heard some of it, because I've seen clips of him playing it.
Me too.
And the stuff I saw of him playing it sounded like any other person ever playing the flute.
I guess I'm not cultured enough. I don't know. My flute knowledge there's no depth there.
No, I'll take my tacos from Taco Bell and I will not listen to Andre 3000 playing the flute. Look, the fact that I just
what is it? What's the official name? Is it a flautist?
A flautist
term for flautist?
No. We just know his great role of Coffee Black from Semi Pro.
Oh man.
Oh man, no, but
I'm interested in it, but I'm with you. I don't think it's gonna be something that'd be mind blowing. My brother though, he listens to why he meditates. He said it's good for meditation.
I stand by it, man. He is the greatest lyricist, the greatest rapper of all time. I think he is phenomenal. I could not hold someone in higher esteem, but I've honestly, this period has pushed me more towards J. Cole as like, okay, that's the new version of Andre because J. Cole's not making flute music yet. I think he'll get there.
He says he has nothing to rap about anymore. He says he can't. He said he doesn't have anything to rap about anymore.
I mean, he wasn't exactly rapping about, changing the world back in the day. So it's not like, I think he's still got topics he could cover, but he's the man, though. I can't hate on Andre. So
right.
I'm definitely interested to hear how it is, though. Anyway, we'll plow through the rest. So really cool show out at ACL Live the next day after the big flute night. Is Cat Power will be there, who's big time indie artist. She's actually doing she's covering the whole Bob Dylan at Royal Albert Hall 1966 show. So she's playing the entire set, which I think is pretty cool and interesting.
That is cool.
And then Silver Sun Pickups, who were big time in the early 2000s, they'll be at Emos. And Glenn Hansard, Irish kind of folk star. He was in the movie once, and that kind of really took his career off. He used to be in a band called The Frames, I believe. And he'll be doing 2 nights at the Paramount starting on Monday and Tuesday being the other one. And then big-time TikTok rapper Young Gravy will be at Stubbs. And then Tuesday, another big indie rock artist, Goth Babe, will be at Moody Amphitheater. And then lastly, I'll end on this. Tuesday is Ham Day, which for those who don't know, the Health Alliance of Austin Musicians is one of the greatest organizations in Austin that provides access to affordable healthcare for low-income musicians. And they have over 300 performances all over Austin that day. Patrick and I were just talking about it. You'll be able to hear bands while you're shopping at the HEB on Lake Austin all the way to, regular music venues, etc. And they've got a cool new feature this year where they have a full interactive map of who's performing and where, and you can find more info on that at myham, and that's HAAM.org. So good people out there. Shout outs to them and all the amazing crew, Paul, Ricky, everybody over there. They're amazing humans.
Love that, man. Good stuff. That's a great cause too. Patrick's always been heavily involved with that group from Ham. So
Patrick's a legend in that organization. He really is.
I know. Patrick's he's. I was your birthday.
Legend in my own mind.
Birthday.
Yes.
Yeah, your birthday. You had a lot of your the proceeds.
Yeah.
From
I've known the Ham people for a long time, so we always support what they do. They have helped out several of my friends.
Yeah, me too.
So I have a lot of friends who are much better off for them existing.
I've watched them change lives, and I cannot stress how, if you care about music in Austin, it is what keeps a lot of the musicians here.
Yes.
myham.org. All right. I like that. Go check it out. All right. Thank you, Nick. We appreciate you, man. We know you got stuff to do. So we appreciate your time as always. And don't forget about Third and Longhorn. That's the podcast that I do with my man Nick Shuley and Alex Okafor and Fozzie Whitaker and Jeremy Hills and Derek Johnson and the crew. So go check that out. It's really cool. Gives you a nice player's insight and perspective. And my man Nick Shuley always provides us a great insight as well and analysis.
Thank you, Nick. The best hanger on. There it is. That's
not true at all.
But I got it edited last night, so we're gonna get the ULM preview should come out tonight. So I stayed up late getting that one done.
See, exactly. I was like, Nick runs stuff around it. Don't listen to Nick. Nick, thank you very much. We appreciate you, brother.
Y'all are the best. Appreciate y'all.
That is the one and only Nick Shuley. He is a man about town, a Renaissance man. So we appreciate him each and every Wednesday coming on for Setlist ATX. All right, we come back. How different is that Texas offense going to look with Arch Manning at the helm, we assume, rather than Quinn Ewers? We'll talk about that. If we got time, we'll also play that Micah Parsons sound of him explaining the disastrous performance they had versus the New Orleans Saints. All of that and more right here on the Rodcast. When we return, featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Davis coming back on the Horn. Welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get into some Texas football conversation. Thanks to my man Nick Shuley for coming in for Setlist ATX. We always appreciate him. But let's get to some Texas football conversation. Speaking of, we do the Third and Longhorns podcast. My man Nick Shuley and Derek Johnson and Alex Okafor and Fozzie Whitaker and Jeremy Hill. It's a really good podcast, giving you a nice player perspective. So go check that out. Got the ULM preview coming out for that. Should be later on today, as my man Nick pointed out. So go check it out. It's really, really cool. But getting back to the Texas football conversation, how different is the offense going to look with Quinn Ewers now being out, we assume being out for the ULM game, and now with the first-time starter, Arch Manning versus ULM. And they're going to be, I think, some subtle tweaks and adjustments to the offense, as well there should be, right? They're different quarterbacks, got different skill sets, different strengths, different weaknesses. One is a third-year starter in the same system, and one guy's going to be a first-time starter. So you'd expect some things to be a little bit different. So here are a couple of things just based on this very small sample size that we have of Arch in the Tech game last year, Arch in the Colorado State game, and Arch, of course, coming in the UTSA game. It's very small sample size, just a few quarters to look at. But I do think I have identified a few areas where you are going to see some change, right? You can see them make some subtle adjustments, some modifications, if you will, to the offense. I think ultimately you're going to see more deep balls or just a more vertically I think you'll see a more vertically inclined offense. I think you'll see an offense that will push the ball downfield a little bit more with Arch. And that seems, I agree. It seems counter to what the logic would normally be when you're developing a young QB, that you want to, encourage high percentage passes, short, quick passes, get them in a rhythm. And you don't necessarily want them having the burden of throwing the football downfield. So I'm not saying they're going to just be, it's going to become a vertical offense where they're going to be the old Coryell offense throwing it downfield. But I think you'll get more deep balls and you'll get a more vertically centric offense than you do with Quinn, just based on the numbers. Now, Quinn, 7 deep balls in the short time that we've seen him so far this year, which is a good number, but still not as many as I think we've seen 3 deep balls from Arch in just that one game versus UTSA. You know, I'm saying 3 of them. 2 of them were caught by Ryan Wingo for 111 yards and a touchdown. I believe Quinn 3 of 7 on his deep passes so far this year, which is still a really, really good number. But when you look at the rate, the frequency of the deep passes, seems like there's a higher frequency of them in the short and small sample size we have for Arch rather than against Quinn. Quinn played the entire Michigan game, played most of the Colorado State game, right? At least a quarter and a half. 2.5 quarters of that Colorado State game. And then he played a quarter and a half maybe of the UTSA game. So, I mean, you're talking about essentially with Quinn, you've had 8 quarters or so of football, 2 games worth basically of football, and you only got 7 deep balls. With Arch, we've seen Arch a little bit in the Colorado State game. You saw him 2 quarters basically in the UTSA game, and he's already got 3 deep balls. So basically, he's got a deep ball basically every quarter. He's averaging a deep ball every quarter he plays. I think you'll get some deep balls. I think Sark believes he has a better deep ball than Quinn naturally. And Quinn has worked on it and gotten better. And I think, you go look at it, Arch may just have a better chemistry with a deep threat like a Ryan Wingo, which we also know. That's something also I think you can look at. You're going to get more targets for a Ryan Wingo and more targets for a guy like Jonte Cook, just because, and even Sark admitted this, because they've been working together so long with the second team unit. Arch, Ryan Wingo, Jonte Cook, and Silas Bowden have probably been the group working together. So he's probably got a bit of a natural chemistry with them. Makes sense, right? And those are the guys that are playing with him most of the time. So out of these 7 targets for early on for Ryan Wingo, 4 of those have come from Arch. 6 targets for Jonte Cook, 4 of those have come from Arch in the games. Hell, Silas Bowden's only touchdown has come from Arch. They not only they're playing together, but I think they probably have naturally developed organically more chemistry together. So that's something else you'll watch, just in terms of who's going to get the targets from Arch. I think he'll have 2 guys that are probably will end up being his favorites to look for. And why wouldn't Juan Wingo be your favorite? He's averaging over 31 yards per touch. But look at ADOT, right? Look at average depth of target. Quinn is at 6.2 average depth of target. Arch is at 8.8, his average depth of target this year. So you're talking about over 2.5 yards more on an average depth of target. If you go look at average depth of target for Quinn, his 6.2 yards, that is the lowest among SEC starters, actually. Because a lot of Quinn's passes, I think his elite trait, or part of his the elite traits of his skill set, is that he is unbelievable, magnificent in the short to intermediate range. He's accurate. He's got great touch, the layering on him, his timing and rhythm. He gets the ball out quickly, and that's why his time to throw 2.2 seconds. That's his average time to throw this year. It's been 2.2 seconds. You ain't getting to him in 2.2 seconds. Arch, his average time to throw 2.5 seconds, because he's throwing the football downfield a little bit more. So I think, and you go look at also air yards. If we're looking at the percentage of your yards against UTSA that came via the air, Quinn was at 26%. Arch was at 42% of his yards came via the air, like through the air, instead of the yak opportunities that Quinn gets. So Quinn is more, because he's a third-year starter in the system, more about the yak opportunities, his accuracy and ball placement, getting the football to guys on the move, perfect placement so they can get those yak yards. And for Arch, I'm sure Arch also can get you the yak yards, but there is a different feel to the passing game with Arch in there, as I think Arch is looking more to go downfield, and I think Sark expects him to go downfield just a little bit more. Like I said, not saying it's going to turn into the Coryell offense, but I do think you'll get more explosive plays via the passing game. Explosive play percentage with Quinn and against UTSA, almost 6%. Explosive play percentage with Arch in there, 33%. I think more opportunity for an explosive play, because the focus on the passing game will be more downfield. I think you'll get fewer or less pre-snap motions and shifts, just because he's a young quarterback and you don't want to put too much on his plate. Now, last week he didn't have the entire week to work with the first team and to obviously get familiar with a game plan the entire week. So maybe now that he is working with the ones as the starter for the ULM game, so maybe now you'll get the same amount of pre-snap motion, because he'll be familiarized with it and he'll be more comfortable with it. But last week, significant drop-off in pre-snap motion rates. You were around your average with Quinn, which is around 55%, and with Arch, that dropped down into 45%. So you drop down your pre-snap motion rates, which I said makes sense. You don't want a lot of pre-snap penalties, and you don't want to overburden a young quarterback with a lot for him to navigate and a lot for him to have to control and delegate pre-snap, when he's going to have enough trying to process as a starter pre-snap. So that made sense. Also, you go look at early down pass rate with Quinn. Hell, man, you were hovering close to 70% early down pass rate. You didn't have your first run until the 10th play of the game. So Sark is definitely thinking along the same lines that I was. Give the offense to Quinn. All right, it's Quinn's offense, third-year starting quarterback in that system. Give it to him and let the pass open up the run. You got to be a pass-first team. You got to be an extremist with that philosophy. And I think Sark was becoming that, because, like I said, close to 70% pass rate for Quinn before he got hurt versus UTSA. In that Michigan game, early down pass rate, 60%. In Colorado State, you're hovering around 58% early down pass rate. Now with Arch Manning, I wonder, when he went in, the pass rate dropped. You had about a 40% pass rate when he was in there. Now, the passes were still effective, but your passing rate dropped. So I wonder if he's going to seek more balance just to unburden a young quarterback like Arch. So maybe you won't have the extreme pass rates that you did with a third-year starting quarterback in Quinn. You may be more moderate. So you may see more moderation and balance with the pass game and the run game with Arch in there as well. I think you'll also get the same amount, a consistent transition, or I think you'll get a consistent amount of play action pass RPOs and screens. I believe that will remain consistent from Quinn to Arch. That's just kind of baked into the DNA of the offense. Those are conceptual signatures of Sark. He'll try to avoid as as a quarterback guru and a quarterback himself, he'll try to avoid any just straight drop back situations and try to give you a cheat code, a play action pass, an RPO, a screen of some kind to make it a higher percentage situation for his QB. That will remain, I think, the same. Also, Isaiah Bond, don't be surprised if you see more of those wide receiver screens, those bubble screens, maybe the tunnel screens, those smoke routes, because that can be an extension of the running game. 64% of Isaiah Bond's 100 plus receiving yards versus UTSA, they actually came on passes behind the line of scrimmage. Essentially, that's a long handoff. That's an extension of the running game, and it can work really well. And now you don't have a lot of receivers that have that yak ability, the run after catch ability, but Bond does have it in a sense that I don't know how shifty and twitchy and how good he can change direction. But if you just give him a one-on-one and he's got to race and beat a guy to the edge and beat a guy to the perimeter, he can do that. So don't be surprised if you see more of that as an extension of the running game. He had a 16-yarder early in the game on that bubble screen, and he ended up having a 50-yard touchdown where he got up to 22.1 miles per hour later in the game. Same play, same concept, just like I said, an extension of the running game. Real easy throw for your quarterback too. And it was two different quarterbacks, right? One was Quinn, and then one was Arch, the 50-yard touchdown. So it is a concept that will translate from one quarterback to the other. And I think Silas Bowden is probably the other wide receiver that has yak ability with the ball in his hands. I'm not sure about Matthew Golden, and I'm not really sure if Ryan Wingo, by the way, also is really good with the ball in his hands. Surprisingly, he's probably good at everything. But I'm not sure about DeAndre Moore, and I'm not sure about Matthew Golden as guys who are great with the ball already in their hands. I think Bond is, I believe. I'm not sure about Jonte Cook either. But I'm saying not saying those guys aren't good, but just like A.D. Mitchell, you can be great, but not necessarily be a yak daddy with the ball in your hands. The best receivers with the ball in their hands as ball carriers is Silas Bowden, it is Isaiah Bond, and Ryan Wingo. And I'm not necessarily in that order, but those are three guys you may see as players who are weaponized and deployed in that fashion. On those bubble screens, on those wide receiver screens. And Sark has said his best blockers on the edge and on the perimeter are DeAndre Moore and Matthew Golden. So you may see, and that, by the way, those were the two guys who were blocking, Matthew Golden and DeAndre Moore, blocking for Isaiah Bond when he scored the 50-yard touchdown on that bubble screen. So that, to me, tracks, and that lines up that you'll get more of those bubble screens because of the depth issues at running back, and running backs keep getting nicked up. Jaden Blue didn't start that game because he was nicked up, and Trey Wisner got nicked up in the game versus UTSA. I saw Jared Gibson, get up, hobbled at one point. I think the football gods are telling you after losing C.J. Baxter and Christian Clark for the season, that running back room, it ain't going to make it the entire season if you put too much on it. It just ain't going to make it. It just ain't. Guys, we're in the third game, and it's already gotten beat up. You lost your starting running back. You lost a depth piece in Christian Clark for the season. Second game of the season, Jaden Blue gets nicked up and gets hurt in that game. Third game of the season, Trey Wisner gets nicked up and hurt in that game. And Jerry Gibson comes up gimpy. Guys, it ain't going to make it through an entire season. You know what will? That wide receiver room, which is 6 deep right now. 6 deep. We're arguing right now whether Silas Bowden is going to make it into the circle of trust. I'm not sure he's going to make it in the circle of trust, man. It's Bond, it's Golden, it's Ryan Wingo. Now DeAndre Moore is still a starter and got his first damn target in the last game, which was also a touchdown. And then you throw in Jonte Cook, who got 2 touchdowns in the last game. Is Silas Bowden going to make it into the circle of trust? Maybe. That's how deep that room is. And that's not even counting your tight end, because we all like Gunnar Helm and what he's doing now. Your passing game is where your depth is. That's where your weapons are. Even Jaden Blue is probably more dynamic in the passing game as a runner. And you've acknowledged that too, because you're giving him 12 targets in the first 2 games of the season. So to me, and I think Sark knows that. That's why in the game versus UTSA, opening series was all passes. He didn't run the ball to his 10th play of the game. That was against UTSA. You think he was trying to take UTSA by surprise? You think Sark was scared of UTSA's rush defense? No. Sark knows what the identity of this offense is going to be. It's going to be throwing the football, no matter who the hell they face. UTSA, Georgia, ULM, Michigan. You're going to do what you do best. You got to lead with what your opponents fear and what your greatest asset and strength is, and that determines your identity. In Texas' identity, they're a throwing football team. That's where they scare the hell out of everybody in college football. And nobody can match up with Texas in the passing game. I would say there's like 20 teams that can match up with you in the run game right now. right now. That's why Sark is. Now the question is, with Arch, is that still the case? That's the question, and I don't know if it will be. I don't know if it needs to be with Arch. We'll see. But like I said, that is definitely what the identity was, and he was leaning toward that before Quinn went down. And maybe you pick right back up when Quinn comes back out there in that sense. So that's how the offense will look a little bit different. It'll still be the same offense, but I think you will get some subtle tweaks because Sark is big on catering the offense specifically to the skill set of his QB and the preferences of his QB. Remember, he asks his quarterbacks, what y'all want to run? And they tell him. So there you go. That's my take on the Arch and Quinn dynamics with the Sark offense.
No,
all right,
I like there was a party mentioned in the presser on Monday. Someone asked him about Arch dropping back like a left-handed passer and then flipping back before the throw.
Oh, he does that?
It was on a play, but it was specifically designed basically in another way to get your defense to change your views, to change your looks, to change your release point. He's like, it's all about trying to create different ways to make the defense confuse the defense. And so, but it was an interesting, whoever brought it up it was a good catch that they saw it. But he's like, that's why you roll them out sometimes. That's why you play action him sometimes. That's why you take 2 steps and 3 steps and all. It's all about changing release points so that the team can't keep their rushing lanes the same way, basically, and can't keep coming at you the same way. That they keep changing up what they're doing.
That's good. So basically, almost like a form of misdirection.
Yes.
I open up to my left. Defense has to adjust, or they read my eyes, whatever they may be, and then I end up coming back flip it as a right-handed quarterback. That's fascinating. Like I said, it's all little tiny, very discreet little things.
Which is again, it's something that he basically was like, San Francisco does it all the time. He brings up it's an NFL thing. So
it's you know what? And I love the fact that he stalks the Shanahan coaching tree, looking for all those little secrets and tricks of the trade. Because I don't know of anybody in the NFL that's better or more modern and progressive than that group of coaches from that Shanahan coaching tree. All right, good stuff there, Patrick. All right, we come back. We'll play Who Said That? Oh, this is a good one. This is a fantastic Who Said That. On the other side, that's when we play clips of audio from the sports world, sometimes beyond the sports world. And based on the context clues or familiarity of the voice, you have to identify and recall who said that. We'll play it when we come back right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Davis coming back on the Horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a One Artist Wednesday on the Rodcast. Thanks to my co-host, the Idealionaire Patrick Davis. He goes deep down the rabbit hole of one specific artist, group, or band, and they are the feature for One Artist Wednesday. And today it is Nile Rodgers, a Renaissance man who has contributed to many hits throughout the years. So we're playing all songs that he either had a creative collaboration and contributed to in some way, form, or fashion. So thanks to Patrick for that.
Yeah,
Also,
and if you didn't know this one too, this is Good Times by Chic, which is now Roger's band. But also, this is the sample / bassline that they ripped off for Rapper's Delight.
Yeah,
the beginning of Rapper's Delight. This is the same. So it's also in a iconic hip hop song of early origin.
Well, he's got like I don't know, it's like at least 2 or 3 you've played that because they
get sampled and like I'm coming out.
Yeah, well, it's been a highly. I mean, that's been one of the more sampled songs in hip hop. Period. Like, I think I can see like 2 or 3 songs that have sampled a little bit of that. So it's a good point. And I did not realize. Now, I feel like honestly, the Soul Glow thing probably is standing out the most to me. The fact that he worked on the Coming to America soundtrack, and he's the one that wrote the Soul Glow song. Like,
I'll recommend anybody go check out his Tiny Desk on YouTube of Nile Rodgers.
I'm in. I'm checking it out, man. That's for sure. That's fantastic. All right, good stuff there from my man Patrick. Also comes up with the topic for the big fat poll today. He wants to know which of the undefeated NFC teams is most likely to make it to the Super Bowl out of those 4, which is Tampa Bay, Minnesota is in that group right now. The New Orleans Saints and Seattle, I believe, are the ones. And I believe right now the Saints are currently leading that poll. That's my pick too. I think the Saints and Derek Carr right now, they're on the cusp of one of the best turnarounds and extreme makeovers we've ever seen from one year to the next. All right, let's get to who said that. That's when Patrick plays pieces of audio from the sports world, sometimes beyond the sports world. And based on the context clues or familiarity of the voice, you have to identify or recall who said that.
Mike Justin mentioned how rewarding it was to get the win in Denver for Russ. He said you gave out a petty game ball. Is that something that you've done often? Is it rewarding for you to get that win for him?
You know, none of your businesses, respectfully. There's certain things that go on among teams that I don't talk about. Whether it gets out or how it gets out is unimportant to me, and I'm not overly guarded against it. But it's just certain things as a leader that I talk to the collective about that I have zero intentions of sharing with the larger public, because it's about our collective and how we come together and how we appreciate and support one another. And, you know, I can't give you all the ingredients to the hot dog. You might not like it.
That's a great quote from Mike Tomlin. I can't give you all the ingredients of the hot dog. You might not like it.
They start off with, that's none of your businesses.
That's none of your businesses.
and then I can't give you all the ingredients of the hot dog. You might not like it. I
love that. He's like, yeah, is it none of y'all's business or none of your businesses? I love that. I love
giving out the petty game ball.
The petty game ball. That's like an NBA thing. A petty game ball. I want some more details on that. Who wins the petty game ball, and how? How do you define who's being petty? Is it the other team or is it you?
Oh no, because this was Russell Wilson for the Broncos.
Oh, that's right. That's probably what it was about. Yeah. Ex-teammate kind of petty stuff. All right, good stuff, Patrick. As always, remember the revolution will not be televised. We'll talk about it right here on the Rodcast. We love you guys. We mean that. Take care of yourselves, but more importantly, take care of each other. Join us tomorrow, same time, same channel. Until then, hook 'em and peace.